Crimes are always more fun when the criminals aren't the brightest bulbs in the pack. Let's buckle up for this one and start with number 6. Don't mind if I do. Marielys Valencia Martinez stole about $32,000 worth of jewels from a man she visited in Miami. Martinez flew to meet the man after they had spoken online for about 2 months. Martinez first noticed the man's jewels when he put 2 diamond rings and a diamond bracelet in a clear plastic bag as they were parking his car. Apparently, there was a sign suggesting that people shouldn't leave their valuables in their car, so, of course, he couldn't be leaving diamond rings and diamond bracelets, you know? Especially if he wasn't planning on wearing them. And it's not like he could just leave them at home or something. Doesn't everyone just drive around with thousands of dollars in jewelry they're not wearing? Anyway, during the date, Martinez asked the guy if she could wear the jewelry and wanted to know how much it was worth and how much it would sell for, because questions like that aren't suspicious at all. The guy didn't tell her any details concerning the price, but allowed her to wear the jewelry anyway. The two of them went to a nightclub and returned home where Martinez gave it all back. The guy took the rings and the bracelet and placed them in a box on the shelf in his room. Early the next morning, Martinez woke the guy up and asked him to take her back to the airport, which he did. Before leaving the hotel, he saw the box on the shelf and assumed the jewels were still in it. Unbeknownst to him, Martinez had done a little creative housekeeping, and by creative housekeeping we mean she stole the jewels. A few days later, the guy saw her using the jewels to record videos on TikTok. It must have took him a few days to notice his diamonds were stolen. He texted her through WhatsApp and asked her to send them back. Martinez refused and told him that she would send them back whenever she returned to Miami. Her excuse was that it was too expensive to send them back, which is a pretty good excuse if you're 5 years old. However, Martinez didn't return to Miami at the time she promised she would. But when she did return, she was arrested. The guy reported her to authorities, so they had been on the lookout. Once she flew into Fort Lauderdale, her goose was cooked. Unfortunately, we don't know if this arrest will result in the victim getting his jewelry back. Maybe don't bring expensive jewelry you're not wearing on your next date, huh? Number 5. Double check the insurance. Uloma Curry Walker hired teenagers to bump off her husband because she wanted to benefit from his life insurance. She was married to Fire Department Lieutenant William Walker for just 4 months. It must have been bliss, since she was already planning to end the marriage by becoming a widow and inheriting everything he had. Uloma was thousands of dollars in debt and was nearing financial ruin. William didn't know about this debt, and he also didn't know that Uloma wasn't actually suffering from the stage 4 breast cancer she'd claimed to have, but he was figuring it out. So, what did our enterprising future widow-in-chief do to get her husband bumped off? She did what any reasonable person would have done. She spoke to her 17-year-old daughter. Her daughter then told her 20-year-old boyfriend, Chad Paget, about it. Paget told Uloma that he could get the job done, but he needed some payment. She decided to pay him $1,000 up front and said she would pay him the rest after the job was completed. However, the 20-year-old Paget surprisingly wasn't exactly accomplished at what he was hired to do, so he decided to farm the job out to another guy named Chris Hine. Hine initially accepted the job, but then brought in yet another co-conspirator, Ryan Doherty. This co-conspirator seemed to be the most willing to do the job, and he only asked for a meager fee of $800. The reason Uloma hired the boys to do the job was because she thought nobody would think she did it, because who in their right mind would think she'd hire a bunch of actual kids to go after her husband? In any case, the deed was eventually done. Doherty fatally ambushed William as he went out to get his fake cancer-having wife fast food. Uloma, who must have a huge hole in the place where her conscience lives, rode with William in the ambulance as he was transported to the hospital. Uloma's big plan was to get William's life insurance benefits, but had overlooked a tiny detail. She wasn't the beneficiary of the life insurance. Instead, William's ex-wife was the beneficiary. For some reason, William hadn't gotten around to changing the name on the benefits from his ex-wife to his new wife, probably because he wasn't expecting expecting his new wife to plan his demise. Not only did Yoloma not get the life insurance money, but she also got arrested by the police. The police offered plea deals to Yoloma's co-conspirators, and they took it. Even if her daughter testified against her at trial, in return for the plea deals, Hine, Paget, and Doherty all got reduced life sentences. Yoloma, on the other hand, was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. But she's single, right? What a catch. Number 4. Caught on camera. Haley Barlow reported to her insurance company that her car had been stolen. But what she left out of the report was that she was the one who towed it away and then set it on fire. Barlow told the police that she'd woken up one morning and discovered that her car keys had been stolen and her car was nowhere to be found. She then went on to make a $2,000 claim for the apparent theft. But things quickly turned into a junkyard fire for Barlow. The police found the car and discovered that it had been set alight. Then they found out that the burnt car didn't have an engine. They returned to Barlow, who insisted that the car was in its proper working condition before it was stolen. Honestly, promise. Unfortunately for her, that claim wasn't enough to keep those pesky coppers from snooping around, sticking their noses in everyone's business. The police eventually found CCTV footage that showed the car being towed by a tow truck with Barlow sitting right inside it. This was all the evidence needed to prove that our little victim was actually an arsonist fraudster. Further investigations revealed that Barlow had paid the driver of the tow truck about 20 pounds. After the car was towed to another location, she then used a can of butane gas to set the vehicle on fire. Barlow was eventually arrested and charged. She pleaded guilty to fraud and claimed that she had carried out the scam because of debts and the amount of money and repairs the car was costing her. Therefore, she saw setting the car on fire and getting insurance funds for it as her only option. Police said that the actions of people like Barlow weren't only criminal, but also constituted a wildfire risk. The fire from her vehicle had caught the dry undergrowth on the road, and the fire had spread a considerable distance away from the car. Thankfully, it went out before it had the chance to spread to the farms and fields nearby. You were driving a VW, Haley. You probably could have just waited a few more days and it would have caught fire on its own. Number 3. Not seeing the problem. A supposedly blind Italian man scammed the government of thousands of euros in benefits before he was caught window shopping and driving. Our lovable fake blind man got about 144,000 euros over 13 years from the Italian government with a fake sob story. He claimed that he became blind in 2008 due to a congenital problem. Unfortunately for our blind guy, and perhaps fortunately for the Italian government, he just couldn't keep this lie going for long. 10 years after he declared blindness, he decided to apply for a driver's license. This alerted the police, who decided to check in on him. They don't typically like blind people driving because it's dangerous or whatever. So either he'd suddenly gotten cured of his blindness because the thoughts and prayers finally worked, or he was just a careless liar. As it turned out, he was just a careless liar, even though our money was on the thoughts and prayers working. The police staked out his apartment and saw him riding a scooter. They also saw him doing things that blind people generally find time to do, such as driving a car, looking at your phone while driving, looking at shop windows, and teaching a child how to ride a bike. Incidentally, the blind man wasn't unknown to the police. He had only recently received a jail sentence of nearly 15 years for being part of a group that staged fake traffic accidents for insurance payouts, which again is the sort of thing you would expect a blind man to do. Lastly, the police discovered that the man was already financially stable as he owned a garage. Despite that, he still collected a basic income that the authorities only give its poorest citizens. We can't really hate on a guy pretending to be blind. We pretend to be deaf all the time. Please stop playing with the dinosaur bones. This is a museum. What? Number 2. Double dipping. Marina Golfo tricked her bosses at the City Department of Education into giving her 3 months of sick leave while she served time in prison for defrauding taxpayers and students. While she was in prison, Marina was paid over $24,000 by the Department of Education. Her journey to conviction and imprisonment began when she defrauded taxpayers of over $150,000 through a program that served developmentally challenged children. For 3 years, Marina submitted forged treatment notes and invoices to the program, claiming payment for over 1,500 therapy sessions she never actually provided. But the program eventually found out what Marina was doing, and she was arrested and sentenced to 3 months in prison. She was also asked to pay restitution for all the money she'd collected from the program. But our scammer wasn't about to go gently into that good night. She had one more trick up her sleeve. Once in prison, Marina sent a letter to the Department of Education asking for paid sick leave. She included a doctor's note in her request, claiming that she was too sick to come to work and should remain at home. After that, she submitted requests to prison and court officials asking for compassionate release before her time in prison was served. Her reason was the COVID-19 pandemic and her elderly parents needed a caretaker. The court refused and said her arguments didn't hold up. At the same time, Marina's requested time for sick paid leave was coming to an end. So she did the smart thing and requested more sick leave, and the department approved the request. They had no idea that Marina was a jailbird and not a sick bird. And it gets even better. The Department of Education initially knew of Marina's arrest. The arrest was widely reported, and she had even been reassigned from her primary position in the department in anticipation of her sentencing. When Marina was eventually sentenced, she simply informed no one, and no one bothered to check. The Human Resources Division of the department had no idea that Marina was requesting sick leave from jail, so they granted it. But this gig couldn't go on for long. After Marina served her time in prison, someone who wasn't minding their own business informed the department about her stint in prison, and she was eventually fired. According to Marina, she had done absolutely nothing wrong. She claimed that while in prison, she suffered complications from shingles, so she would have been unable to go to work even if she hadn't been in prison. So her request for sick leave was valid since she wouldn't have been able to go to work anyway. What a coincidence! However, it doesn't seem like Marina will get away with her scam, as the Department of Education has requested a refund of all the monies it paid out. She has also been banned from doing any further work for the department. Looks like Marina taught her last lesson. Just because you're accurate doesn't mean you're right. Number 1. Grandma and the BBL. Tiffany Acuna stands accused of using the credit card of an Alzheimer's patient to pay for her cosmetic surgery. When the theft occurred, Tiffany worked as a certified nursing assistant and was tending to an 88-year-old. The fraud itself was simple. Tiffany merely took the credit card information of her patient and used it to purchase a Brazilian butt lift, J-plasma, and arm lipo procedures. The husband of the victim in this case contacted the fraud department of his bank when he received a bill for over $7,000 in his wife's name. The department told him that the bill was for cosmetic surgery. He didn't believe his 88-year-old wife would be getting a Brazilian butt lift, so he immediately knew something was wrong, and he probably was also a little disappointed. The victim's husband then contacted the agency that Tiffany worked for, and she was immediately fired. But that was only the first of her headaches. Tiffany contacted the victim's husband to set up a repayment plan. She wanted to sign a loan agreement that would mandate her to pay $1,000 monthly. She might have done this because she was in nursing school and wanted to avoid criminal charges. Unfortunately for her, the police weren't having any of that. They went to the victim's house and waited for Tiffany to show up. When the nursing scammer arrived with $1,500 in cash and a loan repayment agreement, she was ambushed by the police, who took her into custody. With all those cosmetic surgeries, there's probably a couple online careers you'll be able to fall back on, Tiffany.
Here are a few of the dumbest ways to get caught. Number 10. The training center. 6 criminals picked one of the worst spots to plan a kidnapping, right next to an NYPD training center. A group of 6 men found their 19-year-old victim by offering to buy his car via the Facebook marketplace. They told him to meet at New Utrecht Avenue and 72nd Street in Bensonhurst, New York. When the victim arrived, our group of dumb criminals sprang into action. They blindfolded him and called his cousin, demanding $100,000 in ransom money. The resourceful cousin realized he could track the victim's location and quickly located his phone at Floyd Bennett Field, near the NYPD training facility. Officers were alerted and rushed to the area. They arrested 6 men, and the victim only sustained a minor injury to his stomach. It sounds like those trainees got an early taste of real police work. Number 9. Dirk the Penguin. 2 Welsh tourists were on a working holiday in Queensland, Australia, when they got the crazy idea to break into SeaWorld and steal an unlikely pet, a penguin. But Rhys Owens-Jones and Kerry Mules did more than steal a penguin. They also swam with dolphins and released a fire extinguisher into a shark enclosure, which could have done severe harm to them and the sharks. After getting drunk at a beach party, they broke into the park with a teenage Australian accomplice. They stole a 7-year-old fairy penguin named Dirk from the aquarium and brought him back to their apartment. The duo woke up hungover and tried to take care of Dirk by feeding and showering him. They released him into a canal when they realized they didn't know how to take care of a penguin. Locals saw them release the penguin and called the police. Dirk was rescued and reunited with his partner Peaches at SeaWorld. Jones and Mules wrote letters of apology to SeaWorld and the Australian public for their actions. They insisted they meant no harm. Still, they were fined 1,000 Australian dollars each. Number 8. The Good Side. When Donald Chip Pugh saw his mugshot posted online, he decided he could do better. So, he sent the police a selfie with the caption, quote, "Here is a better photo. That one is terrible." Police wanted Chip for failing to appear in court in Lima, Ohio, for a DUI charge. They also suspected him of some vandalism and arson cases. In a Facebook post made by local police requesting tips on Chip's whereabouts, the police uploaded his old mugshot in addition to his new selfie. If Chip wanted that selfie to make the rounds, he certainly got his wish. Chip was no stranger to trouble. His previous encounters with police involved charges of disorderly conduct, breaking and entering, and violence. Chip wasn't worried about missing his court date. In fact, he thought he could go at his convenience. He told the local radio show, 2 Tons of Fun, that there would only be a 3-day penalty when he decided to turn himself in. The Escambia County Sheriff's Office in Century, Florida, finally caught up with him in January 2016. Number 7. The Return. A routine return at Walmart turned into a counterfeit case and physical altercation when employees discovered a sheet of fake money left inside a broken printer. Jared Carr brought his broken printer to a Walmart in Lake Hallie, Wisconsin, but forgot to bring his receipt. Employees rejected the return because Carr couldn't prove he bought the item at Walmart. He refused to leave until the return was accepted and employed some aggressive negotiation tactics with customer service. When Walmart workers inspected the printer and found pages of counterfeit $100 bills jammed inside, they called the police. Carr refused arrest, and for a good reason. When the police finally got him under control, they found more fake money in his pockets. He was charged with attempted theft by fraud, forgery, and resisting arrest. Number 6. The Indianapolis suburb of Fishers faced an interesting crime spree in the summer of 2021. Someone kept on their lawns, sometimes 3 or 4 times in a single morning. The would drop feces on neighborhood lawns every few days and leave a trail of dirty toilet paper behind. 3 or 4 lawns fell victim to the problem every week. The was also active in the summer of 2020. Citizens narrowed it down to a female jogger who couldn't make it home in time for number 2. Angry neighbors talked about how runners need to plan for having to go during a long-distance run. Others suggested she should at least bring a plastic bag to pick up after herself, as owners do for their dogs. A doorbell camera finally caught her in the act, and police arrested her shortly after. The police didn't share her identity. However, they tried to end the rumors of who it could be by ruling out 2 innocent names the locals spread around the neighborhood. Police also encouraged the to seek professional help. She may face charges in the future. Still, her situation is hardly unique. In 2018, a woman in Connecticut was charged with a misdemeanor for breaching the peace after 3 separate times in a cul-de-sac a few miles from her home. She blamed it on lactose intolerance. 2018 was a busy year for bandits. The jogger of Brisbane, Australia, was arrested after people photographed him going number 2 in public. He was a 64-year-old former corporate boss whose public indecency shocked the Australian people. In 2017, a Colorado Springs family was victimized by a woman called the Mad. For weeks, the offender left her droppings on their property, even though she was caught and asked to stop. Unfortunately, the children were the first to see the Mad in the act. They saw her squatting with her pants around her ankles and quickly ran to their mother. Mom came outside and confronted the assuming pure embarrassment would keep the Mad from returning. She was wrong. The Mad kept coming back and leaving her dirty toilet paper behind. At one point, the Mad defecated on the sidewalk in front of their home at least once a week for 7 weeks. Finally, the mother got a photo of the Mad running away. She posted flyers around the neighborhood addressed to the female jogger that continuously uses our walkway as her toilet, pleading for her to stop. Nothing worked, even after seeing the Mad run past the signs several times. They finally got so fed up that they went to the Colorado Springs Police Department. They said the woman could face indecent exposure and public defecation charges. The weird part is that there are plenty of bathrooms in the neighborhood, including porta potties and a gas station. The Mad had a long list of victims on the block, including the local Walgreens and the backyards of several other families. Once the story made local news, the Mad went into hiding, never to well, at least not on someone's lawn. Number 5. The teeth. In Murfield, United Kingdom, a serial burglar left behind a key identifier after stealing some popsicles and a crate of beer. A few days after the victim, Stephen Pickles, discovered someone had broken into his home. He found the offender's dentures next to the freezer. Pickles alerted the police, who traced the fake teeth to a man named Justin Stansfield. Stansfield already had a lengthy criminal record of arrests and burglaries. He was a drug user and an alcoholic, always hunting for beer or things he could sell to pay for his habit. One previous burglary included disturbing a sleeping homeowner, who then beat him with a walking stick. Since Stanfield was so drunk when he broke into Pickles' home, he didn't remember leaving his teeth behind or the rest of what happened that night. He could remember drinking a beer at the scene and removing his dentures to enjoy a popsicle. For his idiotic crime, Stansfield got 16 months in jail. Number 4. The Facebook account. A rookie criminal threw himself under the bus when he forgot to log off his Facebook account after breaking into the home of James Wood. Nicholas Wigg broke into the house in St. Paul, Minnesota, and took his sweet time enjoying the family's belongings. He used the computer to check his Facebook and then forgot to sign out, which gave away his identity and any chance of getting away with the crime. The thief ran away with Wood's credit cards, cash, and watch, but left his jeans, Nike sneakers, and belt behind. It had been raining outside, so detectives assumed Wigg took his wet clothes off to enjoy some computer time in the victim's house. Wood came home and realized someone had robbed him and that the suspect had left his Facebook open on his computer. He made his own Facebook post saying that Wigg burglarized his home and listed his phone number to send any tips on the suspect. Then, Wigg reached out to Wood, asking to meet. He thought that if he returned Wood's belongings, he would get his clothes back, and this whole thing would go away. He was wrong. When Wood saw Wigg approaching, he immediately called the police. The cops arrested Wigg for breaking into Woods' home. He faced up to 10 years in prison and $20,000 in fines. While news of his actual sentencing faded into obscurity, Wigg will go down in history as the dumb burglar who needed to check his Facebook. Is his story more about the clumsy actions of a petty thief, or the grip social media truly has on some people? Number 3. The video game. Clint Butler was on the run after escaping British jail in November 2020. He had already served 14 years of a 17-year sentence for robbery and weapons possession. The fugitive was wanted for months before being caught by police in Birmingham. Butler decided to venture into town that day because he was bored during the COVID lockdown. All he wanted was the new Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War video game. Butler and a friend noticed police in the distance. They turned around rather suspiciously, causing police to chase after them. When the police caught up with them, Butler gave a fake name and said they were in town to buy Call of Duty. He also admitted to carrying marijuana. Police were about to run his phony name through the database when Butler went into a violent craze and attacked the cops. Police restrained him, put him in handcuffs, and called for backup from nearby officers. Butler is now back in jail with an extra 2 years added to his sentence for breaking out of jail and assaulting police officers. At least he has a few years of new Call of Duty games to look forward to when he's out. Number 2. The tip jar. Gabrielle Canales and her friends riding in the back of an Uber thought they could get away with stealing from her driver's tip jar. Little did they know that they were being recorded the whole time. A dashboard camera caught Canales reaching into the hard-working driver's tip jar while making eye contact with the camera. The video went viral, and she faced several threats for her behavior. Gabrielle apologized publicly and returned the $5 she stole, but nobody forgave her. She received tons of internet backlash, and she had to make several public apologies until the story faded from the headlines. Was stealing $5 from an Uber driver worth landing on the wrong side of internet fame? We imagine Canales wished she never reached her greedy hand in the tip jar. Number 1. The Pier. Where there's a pooper, there's a pier. Police in St. Petersburg, Florida, caught a man peeing on the bumper of a marked police car. They apparently had him in handcuffs before he even finished the job. David Marcel Lewis Johnson was caught in the act on February 8, 2020, at about 1 a.m. Johnson, a Detroit native, didn't cooperate with police questioning and pleaded not guilty to disorderly conduct for urinating in public. After a family member paid his $250 bond for the misdemeanor charge, the police let him go. The moral of the story: if you're going to pee on a car, don't pee on a cop car, especially not with actual cops inside.
Who are the influencers who are dumber than a box of rocks? Let's get right to it and start with number 6, chested and arrested. Buxom influencer Karina Leno Gomez committed multiple robberies with the help of her winner boyfriend Edmilson Souza da Silva. With a sizable following on TikTok and Instagram, Gomez frequently posted pictures and videos keeping her followers abreast of any big updates in her personal life. With the help of other members of their crew, the duo targeted people who were on their way to withdraw or deposit money at ATMs. Gomez distracted the victims with her big personality before other crew members robbed them. The recent spike in robberies caught the attention of local law enforcement, who started watching the couple a few weeks before the arrest. Employees at one of the banks had noticed a suspicious car outside their business and contacted the police. What they meant by suspicious isn't entirely clear. When officers arrived, Gomez and Silva attempted to flee the scene with a firearm in their possession. Authorities apprehended the pair a few feet from the branch and confiscated the weapon. The pair admitted to the robberies and named an additional 4 accomplices. Gomez and Silva stayed in police custody until the end of the criminal investigation. Instagram suspended the influencer's account, leaving her in literal and social media jail. And now, with Gomez's account suspended and her being in jail, where on earth are we going to get updates on current events? We were just following her for information, honestly. Number 5, LA Dreaming, Alabama Trafficking. Raquel Dolores Antiola and Melissa Dufour allegedly trafficked over $3 million in illicit powder through Alabama. Musician and rapper Antiola, whose special rapper name is Racky, has hundreds of thousands of Instagram followers. Her friend, Dufour, was an emerging makeup artist and fitness influencer who posted under the name Mela McBarbie. So you can see how their careers were obviously taking off. Officers pulled the massively talented duo over while they were driving a Ford Expedition on Interstate 10 in Mobile County, Alabama. During the stop, the pair raised suspicion when they gave conflicting stories about their travel plans. So the sheriff's office deployed members of their K9 team, who found roughly 217 pounds of, let's just call it, nose beers worth over $3 million in the vehicle's floorboard. Hopefully it wasn't actually all stepped on, but anyways, officers noticed that somebody had lowered and welded the SUV's floor back together to provide storage space. There was also a second compartment in the back of the vehicle with hollowed out side panels. The influencers entered police custody, and the Department of Homeland Security attempted to charge the women at a federal level. Days before their arrests, the women posted pictures on their Instagram pages that seem ironic in hindsight. Antiola shared a pic of herself in a black corset, reminding her followers that it felt good to be around a woman who's in her bag and not her feelings. We're not totally sure what that means, since a corset and a bag are two totally different things, but Racky probably thought she was deep. Dufour posted a pic commenting on how people didn't know who she was becoming, which turned out to be a convict. First-time offenders for trafficking over 5 kilograms are subject to federal sentences of 10 years and up and a fine of $10 million. Looks like they got stuck in traffic. Number 4, the idiotic pranking twins. Alan and Alex Stokes, twin YouTubers, pretended to be bank robbers during a series of pranks that ended with the police approaching an Uber driver with their weapons drawn. The brothers were videoed hailing an Uber while dressed in all black, wearing ski masks and carrying duffel bags full of cash. When the twins got into the vehicle, they claimed that their getaway driver had abandoned them. The Uber driver, who didn't know it was a prank, refused the ride. A bystander believed that the twins were attempting to carjack the vehicle and called 911. The police arrived and ordered the Uber driver out of the vehicle with their weapons drawn. When they realized that the driver had no idea about the twins' prank, they let him go and warned the brothers. 4 hours later, Alan and Alex went after bystanders on the University of California campus again with the same prank. The police received multiple emergency calls about a bank robbery and headed to the scene. The twins shared the video footage of their pranks on their YouTube channels titled "Bank Robber Prank Gone Wrong." The video clip showed the brothers running to the Uber and the driver asking them to get out of the car. Part of the video included one of the brothers telling a police officer that he'd called the non-emergency phone number ahead of time to let the authorities know about their prank, but the cop told him their pranks were still too disruptive and could have endangered others. At the end of the video, Alan and Alex talked about how people had been calling the police on them all day. It's just so funny to have that happen, you know? Police eventually arrested the twins, who each faced a felony count of false imprisonment and one misdemeanor count of falsely reporting an emergency. They entered guilty pleas, and in exchange, the judge reduced their charges to misdemeanor counts of false imprisonment and reporting false emergencies. The judge then sentenced them both to 160 hours of community service and 1 year of formal probation, as well as ordering them to pay restitution. Thankfully, their legal troubles didn't affect the twins' popularity. Following their arrests, their YouTube subscriber count grew from 4.81 million subscribers to 6.68 million. We were really worried that there might be actual consequences for doing stupid things, you know? Number 3, a crashing brain? Former Olympic snowboarder Trevor Jacob purposely crashed a plane to boost his social media views. The thrill seeker represented the U.S. in snowboarding in the 2014 Winter Olympics in Sochi, Russia. He participated in surfing, skateboarding, BMX riding, motocross, and mixed martial art competitions. In November 2021, Jacob posted a 13-minute-long video of himself on YouTube where he parachuted out of a small plane that he claimed had malfunctioned. Officials launched an investigation into the video and determined that Jacob had violated federal aviation regulations. Apparently, the stuffy old FAA felt like recklessly operating a single-engine aircraft in a way that could have endangered the life or property of another, or whatever. So, Jacob lost his private pilot's license in what was obviously a huge overreaction. The FAA ordered Jacob to surrender his certificate and threatened further legal action if he refused to do so, which would include a daily penalty of $1,644. But the organization couldn't prosecute him for the incident, as its only authority was to revoke or suspend certificates and issue fines, which seems a little weird. However, the U.S. Department of Transportation's Office of Inspector General does have the ability to prosecute Jacob if its investigations determine he committed a criminal offense. Jacob denied the allegations that the crash was intentional. Instead, he claimed that he'd planned to fly to Mammoth Lakes to spread the ashes of his late friend Johnny Strange, who passed away in a base jumping incident in 2015. Jacob claimed that the engine failed mid-flight, forcing him to exit and let the plane crash since there was nowhere safe to land. Jacob captured the entire incident on camera. At first, the flight appeared to be going smoothly, with Jacob giving a thumbs up and smiling into one of the several cameras aboard the plane. But 20 minutes into the flight, the aircraft's sole engine appeared to lose power and stall, causing the propeller to stop rotating. Jacob appeared to panic, releasing a string of words bound to get his video demonetized as he struggled to open the door. Jacob then unsuspiciously crawled out of the aircraft with a selfie stick in hand, the first thing you'd grab in a life-threatening situation, and launched his parachute moments before the plane crashed into the hills of Los Padres National Forest in California. Since Jacob had mounted so many cameras to the plane's interior, they had tons of different angles of the crash. Jacob landed in some brush with some minor cuts and bruises. He appeared frustrated over the ordeal, but said that he was glad to be alive and that the accident was the reason he always flies with a parachute. For the rest of the video, Jacob hiked to the crash site to view the wreckage and then wandered in the wilderness as it got dark until he found a farmer who he asked for help. It took a few days after the crash before Jacob went to the airport and told them what had happened. Employees told him they would have to report the crash to the FAA, prompting Jacob to charter a helicopter and remove the wreckage himself. Jacob's edited 13-minute-long video of the event received over 1.7 million views. Many correctly speculated that he staged the crash to go viral and get more clicks. Despite initially denying the allegations that the crash was intentional, the federal investigation thought otherwise. They must get upset about people intentionally crashing airplanes into things. Wonder why? Authorities arrested the thrill seeker, and he admitted to obstructing a federal investigation by destroying the plane's wreckage. In his plea agreement, Jacob confessed to orchestrating the crash as part of a sponsorship deal. The purpose of the video was to promote a wallet company's product, and Jacob had actually never planned on landing the plane that day. Jacob also admitted that he lied to an FAA aviation safety inspector when he said the airplane's engine stopped working, which was the reason he gave for abandoning it. If found guilty, Jacob faced 20 years in jail, a possible 20-year sentence over one little tiny intentional plane crash done for views? Total overreaction, you boomers. Number 2, stop the baiting. Katie Sorensen, an aspiring influencer and mother of 3, posted videos on Instagram where she claimed a Latino couple had attempted to kidnap her kids. Are we sure her name isn't Karen Sorensen? Sorensen posted 2 videos to her account at Motherhood Essentials where she alleged that a couple attempted to abduct her young son and daughter from a Michaels store, which is such a mom place to shop, isn't it? Of course she was at Michaels. After driving to the police station to report the couple and press charges, Sorensen immediately uploaded the videos, which earned her over 80,000 6,000 followers. The police released CCTV footage of the alleged kidnappers at the store. Sadie and Eddie Martinez, the accused couple, came forward to local police, who quickly cleared them of any wrongdoing. The claims Sorensen made were so flimsy that law enforcement actually launched a different investigation into whether Sorensen had falsely reported the crime or if her actions on social media constituted a hate crime. Sorensen claimed in her social media post that she just wanted to raise awareness over what happened and to encourage other parents to be aware of their surroundings at all times. Like some irresponsible parent who's also a huge Motherhood Essentials fan learned a valuable lesson about watching their kids from Katie Sorensen. Sorensen claimed that sharing the story was really difficult and that she didn't feel ready, but it had to be done. She was just so traumatized by the fake kidnappers. According to Sorensen, she'd parked her car far away from the store entrance so she didn't annoy other customers taking her double stroller in and out of her vehicle. While she was in the parking lot, she said she spotted a man looking at her. She also noticed that when she was in the store, that same man, and now a woman, were following her and the kids. And they were acting suspicious, like they're peeking around corners of the aisles in the ghost town that's Michael's, where only moms shop. The suspiciously acting couple seemed to be making comments about her children's appearances and stood behind her in the checkout but didn't buy anything. Like that wouldn't be noticeable. Sorensen then said that they followed her outside to her car and lingered by the stroller while she put her kids in their seats. There was a white van parked alongside her car, which she thought was concerning since she purposefully parked far from the store. There's nothing suspicious about white vans, by the way. You know how much candy those things usually have? After Sorensen's video went viral, BuzzFeed interviewed her after she got a massive amount of blowback. She said that there were people who were sending her negative comments and that they needed to have more sympathy for her made-up traumatic experience. However, the police found no evidence to back up Sorensen's experience and arrested her for fabricating the entire incident. The Sonoma County District Attorney's Office charged her with 3 misdemeanor counts of making false reports to a police dispatcher, a police officer, and a detective. Sorensen entered police custody with her bail set at $100,000 while awaiting sentencing. Sorensen faces up to 6 months in jail. When they were taking her away, she was probably demanding to speak to everyone's manager. She looks like the type, doesn't she? Number 1. Turkish Delights. Simge Barankoglu and Yesem Aydin defrauded hundreds of followers with a tax scam. Barankoglu, who had almost 1 million Instagram followers, and Aydin, who had 161,000, participated in an operation that scammed social media influencers. The scam had members of a crime ring telling victims that they had won a cash prize on a social media game, but that they could only receive it after they paid a certain amount in taxes. Law enforcement caught wind of the operation and executed raids, during which they seized computers, cell phones, SD cards, USB memory sticks, and a bunch of other scammy-looking equipment. Police then arrested 20 suspects, including Barankoglu and Aydin, who were accused of defrauding 250 people all across Turkey for roughly $287,000. Barankoglu released a statement explaining that she made a living through brand and endorsement deals on social media, so she says she just thought she was posting an ad on her page, totally unaware that it was a scam. Barankoglu also added that she didn't know the people running the scam and couldn't accept the allegations made against her. Aydin also commented that the scammers contacted her and just said they wanted to work together. She accepted the job without realizing it was to commit fraud. Aydin added that the scammers gave her fake names and that she never intended to defraud anyone. She didn't contact any of the victims or ask them for money. All she made was the advertising fee. It's not like the two women should have had to take their time to find out who they're working with, right? Who has time for such things? 2 months after their arrests, both women were released on bail.
What's worse to make money? Convincing your followers to lose weight dangerously? Or would it be selling, certain smells in a jar to your fans? Number 3. Calorie Deficient. Teddy Mellencamp, the daughter of singer John Cougar Mellencamp, was a star on the reality series Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. After she gave birth to her second child, Teddy gained almost 80 pounds and had a tough time losing weight. Mellencamp started a blog called LA Workout Junkie, and she wrote about fitness classes she was involved in. She also posted before and after pictures on her Instagram. Over time, this turned into her All In by Teddy program. Teddy claimed that the program was set up to hold people accountable for their goals. All In was promoted on other Bravo Network shows and the official Bravo website. All In by Teddy was expensive. The first 15 days of the program, which was called Jumpstart, cost $599. For those 2 weeks, All In claimed that the participants detoxified and reset their bodies. Next was the monthly program, which cost $439. After that was the weight and workout stage for $165 a month. Finally, there was the maintenance plan that cost $135 a month. All In claimed that diet plans varied by the client, but it seemed to be the same meal plan for every person who signed up. A participant was allowed no more than 700 calories and had to do an hour of cardio every day. People following All In also had to constantly send photos of their scales and what they were eating to Teddy and her staff. They were removed from the program if somebody didn't send those photos or gained weight, quickly going from All In to All Out. What's crazier still is once somebody was kicked out, they weren't refunded any of the money. In rare cases, if a person experienced an emergency with a verified doctor's note, they could get a refund, but they still had to pay a $75 administration fee. A woman named Stephanie Langlet said that All In affected her body image, mental health, and physical health. She came forward with text messages showing how Teddy had bullied her again and again. Stephanie was inspired after seeing a friend who lost a lot of weight from the All In program. She signed up in 2017 and thought the diet would have been set up based on her health and goals. Instead, she was disappointed that it ended up being a one-size-fits-all program. Stephanie explained how she had to send a photo of her weight on a scale each morning. If her weight was up, even by a few ounces, the staff would belittle her and force her to cut out a meal. She finally quit after forcing herself to vomit because she was afraid of being caught eating a piece of chicken. Initially, Stephanie had deleted the messages and photos because she wanted to forget about the terrible experience, but she later stumbled across them in her iCloud account. Stephanie then sent the screenshots of her text to a celebrity gossip Instagram, and the story blew up. Other people started talking about All In's uncertified diet coaches and how the program had caused eating disorders. Shortly after, Teddy announced that Bravo had renewed her contract for Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, a major platform she used to advertise All In. Stephanie's screenshots show that All In was more bullying than wellness coaching. The first message shows Teddy's assistant explaining the program and how Stephanie wouldn't be able to drink alcohol or break the meal plan. The assistant continued to say that while it would be difficult, she would hold her hand and help her through it. Another screenshot shows a text from Mellencamp at 6:41 a.m., simply saying, "Wait." Stephanie responded with a photo of her scale, and Mellencamp replied by saying Stephanie dropped her responsibilities for a man. Teddy then showed up by asking if Stephanie wanted to remain in the program, and if she did, she would need to Venmo $150. In another message, Teddy replied to a photo of Stephanie's soup dinner, asking what the ingredients were. It appears to have gotten worse with time. One day when Stephanie told Teddy she would be going to a wedding, Teddy simply replied to pack your scale, and there was no excuse because Stephanie was a fighter and not a victim. On the day Stephanie forced herself to throw up, she had only eaten a 15-calorie salad, and she started to get nervous she would be bullied after eating the piece of chicken with some green beans. She texted Teddy to explain how she felt, and Mellencamp replied only to object to Stephanie's use of the word chastised. It's probably not shocking to find out that in addition to the toxic behavior, All In's restrictive diet wasn't safe. Lisa Moskovitz, a registered dietitian, said that anyone over 2 years old needs at least 1,200 calories per day. Lisa said that she thought it would have been better if someone came to All In with a plan they received from a medical professional. In that case, Teddy could have helped them stick to the diet, but she shouldn't be creating diet plans for people. Dr. Jesse Hoffman, who specializes in eating disorders, remarked that a diet lower than 1,000 calories with only broth for dinner, requiring someone to send updates after every meal, is a major red flag. Lisa also stressed that a diet like All In promoted could cause severe problems, including nutrient deficiency, low energy, mood disorders, bone loss, and gallstones. Moskovitz believed there should be licensed medical professionals who screen clients for eating disorders before allowing them to join. Other people talked about their terrible memories with All In too. One woman said after joining All In, she had difficulty getting anything done and went to bed at 7:30 p.m. because she had no energy left. Another woman said she had no idea how little food she would be able to eat and wasn't informed about it before she paid to start the program. She still lost 6 to 7 pounds over 8 or 9 days, but when she told her coach she had diarrhea, she still had to show proof of her workout and pictures of her food. Dana Thorogood, who did the program for a month, said she experienced some serious side effects, including dizzy spells, headaches, extreme weakness, and daily diarrhea for a recommended detox tea. Surprisingly, some all-in clients praised the program, which is still ongoing today. The prices have even gotten more expensive, with the monthly fee increasing to $439 and the maintenance program rising to $135. The official website FAQ says that the coaches still don't carry any fitness, medical, or health certifications. They say that lived experience makes all the difference. And if you're looking for a coach with a medical certification, because clearly that's not important, the program isn't for you. Number 2. Jarring Treat. Stephanie Matto is a YouTube video creator, social media influencer, and reality TV star. Matto first became popular on YouTube and TikTok for making lip-sync videos. She also has an OnlyFans account as well as Unfiltered, her own adult subscription site. Stephanie moved to Los Angeles in her 20s to pursue a career as an actress. Still, she ended up working as an adult dancer and going by the stage name Kitty. Stephanie then went on to write a book called Mean Boys and Memories, a compilation of my most outrageous, hideous, and embarrassing stories. The self-published book, free on Kindle Unlimited, is a compilation of short stories from her life, and she also talks about her time working as a dancer. She is currently engaged to her fiancé, Nick Stonestreet, who is another famous social media personality. She was previously in a relationship with Erica Owens, who she met on the reality TV series 90 Day Fiancé before the 90 days. Stephanie has made quite a bit of money over time, and as of 2021, she is worth an estimated $3 to $4 million. She lives in New York City and bought a house she's shown online. Matto is a big fan of cars and owns a white Porsche. She enjoys traveling, has 2 dogs, and likes to cosplay in her spare time. Matto has aplastic anemia, which means her bone marrow doesn't make enough red and white blood cells. Stephanie has said that something as simple as a common cold could be deadly. Stephanie was a star on the TLC series 90 Day Fiancé, which is a show about couples who applied for a K-1 visa, which is a type of visa for foreigners marrying U.S. citizens. After receiving the visa, they have 90 days to get married. On the show, Stephanie had problems getting intimate with her then partner, Erica, which led people to say she was faking her sexual orientation for fame. Matto revealed on the show that she enjoys watching baking videos while taking care of herself. Before the show ended, Stephanie and Erica broke up. At one point, Stephanie decided to auction off a 1-hour virtual candlelight date with her. The auction turned into a bidding war between 2 fans. The winning bid was for $2,700 and was placed by Stephanie Davidson, another star on 90 Day Fiancé. Matto said she had never met Davidson, but got a message on Instagram from her explaining that she was the winning bidder for the date. Matto said Davidson wanted 1 hour of her time to discuss marketing ideas together. After 90 Day Fiancé, Stephanie decided to start a new business, selling her boob sweat. Matto explained that over the years, she received messages from men and women who wanted to buy bras, underwear, her hair, and used bath water. So she thought boob sweat would be profitable as well. Stephanie, who considered herself a human maple tree and her boob sweat the sap, would sit near her pool with a small container pressed against her chest. Matto would then bottle her sweat and sell it for $500. She explained that several scientific factors, including the temperature and how much water she drank, affected how long it took to fill a jar with sweat. Eventually, production had to be shut down when a bear wandered into her backyard and sent Stephanie running into the house. Unable to sit outside and sweat, she's now looking into investing in a sauna so she can continue to collect her breast sweat. As if selling boob sweat wasn't strange enough, this story gets weirder. Stephanie explained that she decided to sell her own smells bottled in jars as a publicity stunt, but she quickly realized it was a lucrative business. She posted a video explaining the process with millions of views. Matto said she constantly received orders for her bottled flatulence, and people even asked for videos of her doing the deed. Unfortunately for those customers, she didn't provide that service. Stephanie wasn't ashamed to discuss the production details either. She says she put several rose petals in each jar, claiming that the flowers help to absorb absorb the scent and make it last longer. The natural gas manufacturer believed she tapped into a massive market with endless potential. Stephanie wasn't afraid to toot her own horn regarding sales numbers either. She sold each jar for $1,000, and she considered that to be a heavily discounted price. Matto also thoughtfully included a personalized message to each buyer. In one video, she explained that she made almost $50,000 in 1 week and thanked the 97 people who had already purchased her preserved personal smells. Stephanie talked about her gas-generating diet, which consists of beans, protein muffins, yogurt, hard-boiled eggs, and protein shakes. Matto says she usually sets aside 2 or 3 days each week for this bizarre side hustle. Apparently, coming up with all that air isn't easy, and it doesn't come without its risks. Stephanie almost ended up in the emergency room after eating way too many fiber bars. Matto revealed that while most of her customers are fans or just people who like to collect odd things, she's had trouble with stalkers. She said one person managed to find her address, and because of that incident, she keeps bear spray in her home along with an attack dog. She even looked into getting a gun license. Eventually, Matto announced her retirement from selling bottled flatulence, remarking that it was causing too much stress on her body. Always resourceful, Stephanie quickly thought up another way to make money by selling her flatulence as NFTs. Number 1. Gypsy Sisters. Gypsy Sisters was a reality TV show on TLC that followed the lives of a group of gypsy women. It was a spin-off to another TLC series called My Big Fat American Gypsy Wedding. The show centered around sisters Millie, Nettie, Dovie, and Joan. In 2017, Millie, who was known as the black sheep of the family, was arrested for fraud after scamming Toys R Us and Babies R Us. In 2017, Millie went to a Toys R Us and used fake coupons on her phone. She had the cashier scan 7 coupons in total, and each one was worth $300. Millie then used the phony credit to buy merchandise and gift cards worth over $2,400. Once she left the store, she offloaded the gift cards before the store could cancel them. Police and the store's loss prevention team were able to look at the video surveillance and identify her. In all, she was arrested for using fake coupons to buy $18,000 worth of merchandise at Toys R Us. This wasn't the first time Millie got in trouble for using fake coupons. In 2014, she was arrested with her sister for running a coupon scam at a Target store. Millie was able to avoid serious jail time by making a deal in court. She pled guilty to theft by deception and criminal possession of a forged instrument. Lucky for her, the judge went easy and only gave her 5 years of probation. The terms of her probation said that Millie couldn't own a gun, would have to stay clean from drugs and alcohol, and would have to pay back the $18,000 she stole using the scam coupons. She also had to get her GED as a condition of the deal. Millie had to take regular drug and alcohol tests and meet with her probation officer, and if she violated any part of her deal, she could be looking at 6 years in prison.
These are easily some of the dumbest decisions influencers make. Let's get started with number 5. Cold-blooded. Canadian influencer Yun Lucy-Lou Lee and her Slovakian boyfriend Oliver Carafa were wanted for murder and attempted murder and spent 3 months on the run before they were caught by Hungarian police in Budapest. In February 2021, the couple shot 38-year-old father of 3 Tyler Pratt fatally in Ontario, Canada, and tried to go after his pregnant girlfriend too. Pratt was pronounced dead at the scene. His girlfriend was hospitalized and lost her unborn baby. Within 24 hours, Lee and Carafa fled to Eastern Europe and traveled through Slovakia and Czech Republic before arriving in Hungary. But the couple made no attempt to conceal their identities, which is a great strategy when you're a social media star. Lee's mother, Hong Wei Winnie Liao, is the president of Respin International Group, an asset management firm based in Toronto with many political connections to Canada's Liberal Party. She runs in the same circles as Canadian Prime Minister and former party animal Justin Trudeau and Ontario Premier Doug Ford. Lee is one of a set of triplets, and with her sisters, had amassed a huge social media following by posing in their matching dresses and swimsuits. Her boyfriend Carafa is a Slovakian native who, in April 2012, was involved in a fatal car crash in which he drove drunk at twice the speed limit, resulting in the death of his passenger, 19-year-old David Chiang, after he was ejected from the vehicle. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison, which seems light if you ask us. The couple was arrested in Budapest after 3 months of being on the run. Lee consented to her extradition to Canada and was released on $2 million bail due to her mother's powerful political connections. Two family friends pledged $500,000 and $200,000 respectively as sureties. The condition said that Lee must stay in her North York home for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, except for medical appointments and exercise. She was required to wear a GPS tracking device on her ankle and couldn't have any visitors outside of her immediate family. Lee could only access the internet when supervised. Carafa stayed in Hungary after losing his battle to be extradited to Canada. During the hearing, it was revealed that Carafa shot the fatal bullet, resulting in Pratt's death. They were both charged with first-degree murder, meaning the murder was planned, but authorities haven't said why the couples met in the park that fatal night to begin with. Number 4. Snake-skinned. Stephanie Scalaro is an Instagram rich kid and model from West London with over 100,000 followers. She often posted pictures of herself jet-setting around the world and having photo shoots in exotic places. You know, a real salt-of-the-earth type girl, born into a humble life as the daughter of Italian mining tycoon Francesco Scalaro. She often flies by private jet to her family's homes in Monaco, Ibiza, and New York, just like the rest of us. She's even cool with her dad only stocking Fiji water on the jet instead of Evian like she specifically asked. Sometimes life is hard, but you gotta roll with the punches, you know? Scalaro became the subject of an international customs investigation after a mysterious package came addressed to her from Indonesia. German customs in Leipzig got a hold of the package containing illegal animal skins, mostly from pythons. Customs notified British authorities and forwarded the package to the UK. British Customs found more packages connected to Scalaro's name, containing 8 snakeskin baseball hats and another filled with other illegal animal skins. The packages were found at London Heathrow Airport in March 2017. Police arrested and interviewed Scalaro the same day in connection with said packages with 2 forged importation certificates inside. Scalaro defended herself by saying that she was the victim of the scam by Indonesian snake farmers, because when are Indonesian snake farmers not targeting rich Instagram models? It's practically every day. Scalaro said had nothing to do with the packages or the illegal animal skins inside. She was probably hoping they would just ignore all the snake skin products she was selling on her website. There was clearly no connection. Authorities seized a total of 35 hats worth about 12,215 pounds and a large snakeskin bag listed for 2,800 pounds on her website. Scalaro was accused of keeping python leather skins in her London apartment and selling them on her website SS Python, her Instagram account, a London boutique, and a menswear shop elsewhere in the UK. But we'd like to remind you, she was the one scammed. The Indonesian snakeskin trade is devious. Realizing that other people aren't stupid, Scalaro eventually admitted to 2 counts of importing goods with intent to evade prohibition and 2 counts of selling a species unlawfully imported. On January 21st of the following year, she was sentenced to a 12-month community order to conduct 160 hours of unpaid labor. The judge probably had to explain to her exactly what labor is, as she's probably never had to do any of it. During the sentencing, the judge pointed out Scalaro's blatantly entitled attitude. Not only was it evident on her Instagram page, but illegally importing products made with the skins of endangered animals, paying no mind to the fact that species are dying out for the sake of her profits. Still, Scalaro refused to take responsibility, claiming she was used as an advertising campaign because of her reputation and fame. Scalaro said she didn't know pythons were endangered or that importing the items to the UK was illegal, likely because she didn't care. Now she says she's being used as the poster child for wildlife crime and believes she's the victim of bullying. This was probably all part of the Indonesian snake farmer's master plan. After her sentencing and accepting her newfound reputation as a species killer, Scalaro just wants her followers to know that she's not perfect. You know, she's no different than any other average Joe who contributed to threatening an endangered population. So relatable. Number 3. Sport Lux Lies. Bianca Chi is an Australian former model turned wellness influencer. This health guru was born and raised in Australia until she moved to the United States in 2016 to pursue modeling. In the US, she married Simon Chalmers, an American who ran King's Cross nightclub Beach House. Chalmers' nightclub is frequented by many celebrities, such as Leonardo DiCaprio, who held his 37th birthday bash there. Chalmers helped Chi expand her wellness business by taking her knowledge to social media and accumulating more than 1.3 million Instagram followers. She and her husband founded the website Lux, a digital wellness brand devoted to helping people find the joy in healthy eating. The couple was enjoying marriage and success when in January 2022, she was detained by the Australian Border Force after taking a transcontinental flight from Los Angeles to Sydney. But the arrest didn't come as a surprise. She knew authorities were waiting for her on the other side before being taken into custody by New South Wales police. Chalmers gave potential Lux investors documents that said the company earned $200,000 in the first half of 2017, with a projected $325,000 profit in the rest of the year. Convinced by the company's revenue figures, investors bought 1 million AUD worth of shares. But they became suspicious that Chi's stats were fraudulent. NSW police launched a fraud investigation in 2018 and found that the couple broke Australian law by deceiving consumers and duping investors out of 1 million AUD. Investigators found that Chi put some of her profits from modeling into the Lux business account to make it look like the company was more successful than it really was. They were ordered to pay back all of the money they stole from investors, but Chi declared bankruptcy in 2021 and hasn't paid back a single dollar. The couple's lawyers walked away from the case after Chi and Chalmers said they only make $500 per month now and can't afford a defense team. Chi fled to the US to escape the Australian justice system, even though a Lux spokesperson insists that she went with innocent intention of expanding the Lux market. Amidst the investigations and lawsuits, Chi and Chalmers separated. Chi took to Instagram to explain her lack of recent posting, saying that she wanted to spend more time with her son, never addressing the charges against her. Number 2. Pink-haired. Chosen Terrell Hanna is a young TikTok star from Detroit known as Chosen World, who recorded himself dancing and lip-syncing shirtless in his signature red and white Nike shoes. In about half of his videos, Terrell Hanna has pink-purple hair. His TikTok page has more than 149,000 followers and 1.6 million likes, where he bragged about robbing gas stations and 7-Elevens in a 3-month crime spree. It's always best to brag about crime sprees on social media as a way to hide in plain sight. Police will never find you this way. Chosen's TikTok, shockingly, is what ultimately gave him away to police. Authorities recognize his red and white sneakers as the ones worn by the suspect in a Michigan crime spree. Eyewitnesses also mentioned the suspect's pink-purple hair, which matched Terrell Hanna's physical description. Terrell Hanna began his spree of 4 armed robberies in December 2021, in which he targeted a 7-Eleven twice, a gas station, and a tobacco shop. During his first heist at the 7-Eleven, he walked into the building in black pants, a black hoodie, black ski mask, skeleton gloves, white shoes, and a backpack with pink flowers on it for a pop of color. Gotta look good. Terrell Hanna held the store clerk at gunpoint and demanded cash. The next month, he walked into a Marathon gas station wearing the same disguise and this time held the gun against the clerk's back as he demanded money. Then he returned to the same 7-Eleven and got away with the heist for a second time. To make matters worse, he didn't even do a cool dance as he left. His final robbery took place just 5 days later at Old West Tobacco in Novi, where he emptied the cash register and jacked several boxes of cigars. The employee of the tobacco shop noticed the suspect's distinctive pink hair. The FBI received an anonymous tip pointing them to Terrell Hanna's TikTok page, and they noticed his sneakers and hair matched the eyewitness's account. The police obtained a search warrant that allowed them to track Chosen's phone, which showed his device at all of the robbery locations at the same times as the incidents. Investigators raided his home and seized several items probably used in the robberies, including a handgun, backpack with pink flower on it, and a signature Nike tennis shoes with red accents. Authorities read Terrell Hanna's his Miranda rights, and he TikToked right away, confessing to all 4 robberies. He was charged with affecting interstate commerce and possessing a firearm during a violent crime. He was held without bond and could face more than 20 years in prison. Number 1. Canyon golfing? Female golfer and social media influencer Katie Sigmund found herself in hot water after posting a viral video of her swinging a golf ball into the Grand Canyon in October 2022. Sigmund, who has nearly 7 million followers on TikTok, was quickly reported to the National Park Service after the stunt. The park released a statement asking if they really needed to tell visitors not to hit balls into the Grand Canyon and posted the video to their Reddit page. They didn't identify her by name, but she was quickly recognized as social media influencer and terrible golfer, and and now litterbug Katie Sigmund. In the video, Sigmund is seen swinging her golf club at the ball. The ball goes flying into the canyon, and the club breaks in half and goes down into the rim as well. Sigmund looks shocked as she realizes what happened. The force of the impact of the ball and the club falling down the canyon could have been enough to kill someone. The incident took place near Mather Point in the Grand Canyon. It went beyond littering, it was downright dangerous. Commenters on the video expressed hope that she would be banned from the park for life, with others worrying that she could have hit someone's head or damaged the wildlife. Sigmund has been fined $285 and charged with 3 misdemeanors. The charges were for tossing items into the Grand Canyon, littering, and creating hazardous conditions with disorderly conduct. Sigmund was lucky to only be cited for disorderly conduct and throwing items into the canyon, since that carries a maximum fine of $5,000 and 6 months in prison. Maybe stick to mini golf from now on, Katie, or pumpkin bowling, or something. Just not hitting things at really any type of canyon, grand or otherwise. What are some of the strangest decisions that influencers make? Let's get right into it and start with number 6, Bali Adventure. Kelsey Foster's vacation to Bali was cut short after sustaining a leg injury that got infected. Foster was walking through Bali's famous Legion Street shopping district when she slipped on a tile and rolled her ankle. At the time, she thought it might be a sprain, but didn't want that to stop her vacation. Soon after the injury, Foster was sitting in a tattoo artist's chair for a large tattoo on the wounded leg. The process took 12 hours, and by the end, she feared her earlier fall might have done more damage than she realized. Thankfully, Foster had purchased travel insurance and was quickly flown back to Australia. She went to a hospital to get her leg checked, where she learned the full extent of her injuries. Foster had fractured of her foot and tore a ligament in her ankle. She had to wear a boot, which caused her even more issues. The tattoo also didn't respond well to the injury and became severely infected. People tried to blame the tattoo shop for unsanitary practices, but Foster quickly denied the blame. She insisted the infection was due to the severity of her injury and due to the boot she had to wear. Boot kept rubbing at the tattoo and wearing it so much it prevented the skin from healing. Although Foster was in excruciating pain, she couldn't take painkillers. Doctors told her the painkillers would complicate matters if she had blood clots. Earlier in her trip, Foster donated food to a children's orphanage in Bali. She dropped off essentials like noodles, cooking oil, and rice, as well as candy and toys. Foster went to a local family-owned store to purchase the items and took donations from Australian friends to give to the orphanage. With 7,000 followers on Facebook, she wanted to use her platform to help people. However, people online were unimpressed by the charitable act after she posted pictures of the visit online. Some saw Foster's good deed as using disadvantaged children for a photo opportunity, pointing out that she wore a revealing dress for the photos. She defended herself by pointing out that it was also 91 Fahrenheit and humid. While Foster had critics, she also had followers that jumped to her defense to say that the posts she made had nothing to do with what she wore and were about the orphanage instead. Number 5. Jay Mazzini. Disgraced influencer Jay Mazzini once ran a popular Instagram account until he was discovered to have swindled millions of dollars from investors as part of a Ponzi scheme targeting New York's Muslim American community. Mazzini, whose real name is Jabara Igbara, was best known for his viral stunts where he would hand out large amounts of cash and had almost 1 million followers on Instagram. He once teamed with rapper 50 Cent to hand over $30,000 in cash to workers at a Burger King in Queens, New York, as a thank you for their hard work during the pandemic. In January 2021, Mazzini started buying Bitcoin from other social media users at 3.5% to 5% over market value. He offered to pay $52,000 for one Bitcoin worth $47,000. Mazzini explained that traditional Bitcoin exchanges limited how much he could purchase, so he was willing to pay higher prices. When it came to the transactions, Mazzini would send his victims documents, including images of wire transfer confirmation pages, to confirm he sent a wire transfer to their accounts. When the wire transfers never arrived, his victims launched complaints. The influencer has claimed his net worth was $33 million, so he could easily pay the inflated prices. It was eventually discovered that his bank account was a little short by about, $33 million. Mazzini faced charges of wire fraud. However, it wasn't the only criminal case Mazzini would have to fight. In March 2022, Mazzini pleaded guilty to one count of first-degree kidnapping after a man named Amjad Mashal online threatened to expose Mazzini's crimes. The severity of his charges meant he could potentially spend decades in prison, but Mazzini negotiated a plea deal with prosecutors for a 5-year prison sentence instead. Mazzini decided to kidnap and intimidate his opponent, tracking him down in northern New Jersey and taking him for a not-so-fun drive that ended with an assault. He had 2 accomplices, and one of the 3 threatened to kill the victim if he called the police. Surveillance footage captured Mashal's failed attempts to run away, only to be dragged back to the car by Mazzini's accomplices. The 3 kidnappers left Marshall beaten and without clothes. Marshall made the shocking decision to recant his original statement to police after being bribed with a $100,000 payment in return for a new statement that would help release one of his attackers from jail. Authorities charged Marshall with accepting a bribe to change his statement. Mazzini's wife allegedly gathered personal information about the judge and prosecutors involved in her husband's case. Investigators seized her phone data and discovered she had thoroughly researched the judge's family history in order to intimidate. A week after Mazzini's kidnapping charge, federal authorities also revealed Mazzini's participation in another multi-million-dollar Bitcoin scheme. They accused him of soliciting crypto from followers at a rate higher than market value, but never reimbursed any of his victims. Mazzini made at least $8 million in the scam, money he spent on personal expenses and gambling. He ran a Ponzi scheme through his company, Halal Capital, between 2019 and 2021. His victims would give him money to invest, which he used for personal expenses and to fuel his Bitcoin scam. Mazzini agreed to pay $2.56 million to one of his followers for 50 Bitcoins, but only sent $500,000. Mazzini pleaded guilty to wire fraud conspiracy, and money laundering, agreeing to forfeit over $10 million in property, $5 million in restitution, and $500,000 in fines. He faces up to 10 years in prison. Someone should influence him to stop scamming. Number 4. Born Again. The state of Texas sued social media influencer Brittany Davis over fitness plans she created that violated consumer protection laws and took advantage of followers with eating disorders. Davis sold online fitness packages through her business, Brittany Dawn Fitness LLC. Plans cost up to $300, and thousands of consumers purchased them. Customers thought they would receive individual plans, but that wasn't the case. Davis was also supposed to provide coaching and check-ins, which didn't happen, minus random messages that offered encouragement but weren't personalized. Customers felt misled and sought refunds, but Davis ignored their requests, and if anyone complained about the situation on social media, she would delete their comments. Davis claimed to have struggled with an eating disorder and used nutrition and exercise to help herself heal. Clients believed they would see similar results, but her plans just pushed weight loss, even for people that didn't need it. At least 14 women suffering from eating disorders reached out to the fitness influencer looking for help overcoming them. Davis posted YouTube videos about her eating disorder struggles and offered links to nutrition and fitness plans. The seemingly informative nature of her posts and the links she provided made consumers believe she was qualified to handle these conditions. She wasn't. Some of Davis's clients needed to gain weight rather than lose, but she still encouraged them to follow restrictive nutritional plans. Several clients almost fainted from inadequate nutrition while participating in the program. Davis only provided clients with cardio exercises and low-calorie macronutrient suggestions that inevitably led to weight loss. She posted an apology video in February 2019, but alleged that clients had been harassing and threatening her. In an appearance on Good Morning America, she said she wanted to provide refunds to people who felt misled by her plans. Davis only offered partial refunds and took down her fitness website, bedawnfit.com. The lawsuit also alleged that she charged shipping fees for her products despite being digital. Complaints about Davis's business practices began to flood the Attorney General's office in March 2019. In April 2020, Davis applied for a Paycheck Protection Program loan of $20,800 for her fitness business. Davis eventually took down her apology and other videos. She changed her content from being fitness-focused to sharing Christian-related content. Despite the outrage around her fitness plans, Davis has amassed a massive following on her social media channels. She moved from Dallas to Fort Worth, claiming she needed to leave the city as it was too materialistic. Davis began hosting She Lives Freed retreats, an extension of her She Lives Freed Instagram profile. Customers paid $125 a ticket, which did not include boarding. Her attempts at separating herself from the controversy didn't work. Attorney General Ken Paxton filed the lawsuit against the influencer in February 2022, where they sought up to $1 million in damages. Looks like her meal plan ultimately included an indictment sandwich served with a side of justice. Number 3. Only insurance scams. Shauna Lynn Palmer, a beauty contestant, faced workers' compensation fraud allegations after investigators discovered her social media posts. Palmer claimed to have fractured her toe while working as a supermarket clerk. She alleged she couldn't put on a shoe or stand for extended periods. Palmer reported multiple visits with her doctor, who referred her to a specialist. Supposedly, she was barely able to walk. Then, a YouTube video surfaced of her participating in the Miss Toyota Long Beach Grand Prix beauty pageant, where Palmer strutted across the stage in high heels. A week after the pageant, she returned to the doctor complaining about pain in her foot and left on crutches. Days later, Palmer posted other photos of herself participating in more pageants and events on Facebook. Her social media posts gave investigators proof that she was lying. She pleaded guilty to 1 misdemeanor count of workers' compensation fraud and was sentenced to 36 months of probation and 50 hours of community service. Additionally, she had to pay $5,000 in restitution and a $1,000 fine. That's a pretty big bill she's gonna have to foot. Number 2. Guaranteed returns. Instagram influencer Hader Atef was arrested in Cairo, Egypt, and accused of defrauding vast sums of cash from over a dozen people. Atef gained 2.5 million Instagram followers with her fashion content, sharing over 1,500 posts where she wore outfits from the biggest designers in the world. Atef claimed she could help invest people's money in the stock market and give them a return of up to 200%. Victims handed over $40,000 with the expectation that they would see high returns. However, the scammed investors never saw a profit on their money or even a return on the original amount. Atef was arrested alongside her husband Bilal Mahmoud and her sister-in-law and sister-in-law's husband. Police received reports that the 4 scammers, Atef, her husband, and her former in-laws, pretended to own a group of companies that operated across various sectors like real estate, vehicles, and securities trading. Atef's mother posted several live streams claiming that thugs kidnapped her daughter. She also claimed that Atef's daughter was endangered, but authorities clarified they arrested Atef over the fraud allegations. Atef's mother also claimed that Mahmoud had access to all of Atef's bank accounts and was behind the fraud. Mahmoud's family initially claimed he'd taken his own life, but later, news broke he had been arrested. Before entering police custody, he had been hiding out in a rented apartment. Atef filed for a divorce from her husband following interventions from her family. Her legal team hoped the divorce certificate would persuade prosecutors that she had nothing to do with her husband's scheme. She alleged that she had no idea of the fraudulent behavior her husband carried out through her accounts. Rumors circulated that Mahmoud paid $345 million in cryptocurrency through the fraud, but his lawyer denied those claims. 16 people reported Atef, Mahmoud, and Atef's sister-in-law to the Cairo Security Directorate. The investigation is ongoing. With all of these claims of innocence, these Egyptian scammers must have been living in denial. Number 1. No coming back. Model and influencer Courtney Clenny had a massive amount of followers on her social media accounts, but that couldn't save her after a fight with her boyfriend turned deadly. From the outside, Clenny and her boyfriend, Christian Ombumseli, seemed perfect. Clenny was a successful social media influencer, and Ombumseli was a cryptocurrency trader. They lived in a luxury Miami apartment, but their lives were very different behind the scenes. Clenny and Ombumseli often fought, sometimes in public, and there were times when their arguments became violent. In April 2022, they had a fight in their apartment that ended with Clenny going after Ombumseli with a knife. Unfortunately for Ombumseli, the results were expected and catastrophic. Following the fatal incident, Clenny went to rehab in Hawaii for her substance issues and post-traumatic stress disorder. Her time in Hawaii was cut short when police arrested the influencer, assisting the U.S. Marshal Service and following through on an arrest warrant issued by Miami-Dade County in Florida. Prosecutors wanted to keep Clenny behind bars as she was a flight risk. The model rose to fame via her OnlyFans account, a job she could do anywhere in the world. If she left the country, she would still be able to make more than enough money to support herself. Clenny made $966,692 on the racy website in 2020 and $1.8 million in 2021, as well as the money she pulled in from her other social media accounts. Clenny's defense attorneys argued she acted in self-defense. The couple's relationship was often tumultuous. Some of Clenny's Instagram posts showed bruises from Umbumseli's on her hands. During the investigation, other incidents from before Umbumseli's passing came to the surface. Clenny was arrested in Las Vegas in 2021 after throwing a glass at Umbumseli. Texts between the pair referenced other times she had attacked him, having used a sharp weapon to cut his leg and hitting him with a phone. Despite their issues, the couple moved from Texas to Miami, but things didn't improve. Umbumseli started recording Clenny's outbursts, including a video of her hurting him in an elevator. After Umbumseli's passing and before Clenny's arrest, she made some suspicious money movements. She transferred $1,134,000, $121,000, and $50,000 from her accounts to her father's. She performed the transfers on April 12, less than 2 weeks after Umbumseli's passing. Clenny and her legal team tried to get her released on bond after her trial and during the hearing. The defense claimed she acted in self-defense. Clenny's father, Kim Clenny, said his daughter's net worth was far lower than what was reported. In his testimony, he contended Clenny had $375,000 equity in her house and $11,000 to her name. Prosecutors alleged Clenny once had $2 million in her account, but her father said she used most of that money to buy a house. Additionally, his daughter spent over $35,000 on rehab, and a considerable amount went toward criminal defense fees. Kim Clenny explained that his daughter wired her money to him for safeguarding, as she didn't always make the best financial decisions. Clenny trusted her father with the money as he was a financial advisor. Prosecutors believe the money movements confirmed their suspicions that Kenny was a flight risk. The prosecution accused Kim Clenny of lying to protect his daughter, something he firmly denied. A representative from OnlyFans made it clear they would not allow Clenny to return to the site should she get out of jail on bond. The medical examiner told the court Umbumseli had just one wound to his chest. At the time of her arrest, Clenny said she threw the knife. During the trial, the prosecution asked the medical examiner if he thought the injury was the result of a thrown knife, which the medical examiner said would be highly unlikely. Miami judge Laura Sheeran Cruz denied Clenny's request to be released from jail before the trial, citing that Clenny was clearly behind the assault. The court didn't find Clenny's claim of self-defense credible with the evidence presented in the hearing. The case is ongoing. Who are some of the craziest influencers out there? Let's get started with number 5. The worst girls to know. Kidnappers held influencer Angela Boyer's boyfriend, Peter Vuong, for ransom in connection with Boyer's past criminal activities. The kidnappers consisted of a group of 6 men who took Vuong from his Sydney home while he was in bed with his girlfriend. They held the Sydney businessman for 5 days, demanding a $5 million ransom for his release. During Vuong's time as a hostage, the kidnappers were particularly brutal with him. Syra Elcare, a state government agency employee, misused her access to personal data to supply the kidnappers with Vuong's information. Many people knew Boyers as a glamorous influencer on TikTok who had endorsement deals with many successful brands. She also operated Cloud9 Studio, an exclusive event space that she'd rent out for brand launches, photo shoots, baby shoes, and engagement parties. Before she became an influencer, Boyer was once a member of a gang that sold illegal substances and served time in jail related to her role in that group. Vuong claimed his captors demanded the ransom from Boyer's wealthy crypto trader and property developer relative, Van Din. The kidnapping brought Boyer's criminal past to light and her arrest following a sting operation. In 2017, an undercover officer infiltrated the gang Boyer was associated with. He called himself Jim and paid a gang member a $1,000 deposit as part of a much bigger purchase of illegal substances and met up with him 5 days after to pay an additional $49,000. Jim met Boyer and her then boyfriend Gien Hun in a designated location where the couple instructed him to follow them as they drove to Boyer's family home. Jim entered the house where Hun and another man counted out the money and handed Boyer $7,000 to take upstairs. Jim then drove to another address to pick up a commercial quantity of illegal substances. About a month later, Hun told Jim he could supply illegal substances by the kilo. Jim arranged another purchase of $55,000. Jim drove to the home of one of the gang members, and Hun, Boyer, and a third man met him there. They took him into the backyard to count the money. Hun gave him a backpack filled with powdery substances, which Jim handed over to police for an analysis of the substances. Jim made his final deal in May when he arranged to purchase almost $200,000 of substances. The couple led Jim to a house to pick up the substances, and when they arrived, Hun and Boyer fought over who would retrieve Jim's order, as Hun claimed he had hurt his foot. Boyer eventually grabbed the items and gave them to Hun, who then handed them to Jim. Police swiftly arrived at the scene to arrest Hun, Boyer, and the person that lived at the house, as well as seizing the substances and the cash. 6 years later, Boyer was dealing with gang activity again. Armed police stormed the property to rescue Vuong, where they found him blindfolded on a bed. Alcaire was arrested for abusing her position to assist with Vuong's kidnapping and faced charges of accessing restricted data held in a computer, unauthorized function with intent of serious offense, participating in criminal group activity, and more. The 6 kidnappers were arrested and charged with their role in the kidnapping. We know relationships can be complex, but talk about baggage. Number 4, miscongeniality. Fitness influencer Tammy Steffens took extreme measures to threaten and harass coworkers and competitors in the fitness community. Steffen ran Beyond Fit Bikini, a Florida-based business dedicated to training and coaching bodybuilders and bikini competitors. However, when her relationship with her business partner soured, she unleashed her fury on the fitness community. Steffens repeatedly contacted at least 6 people. She called, emailed, texted, and contacted them via social media over 2 years. Not only did she try to destroy their professional careers, but she also threatened extreme violence against people's lives and their loved ones. At one point, she alluded to being on her way to one of her victims' houses with a weapon. In one of her bizarre attempts at ruining a former business partner's reputation, Steffen reported to police that the business partner left a headless doll on her front porch with a note stating it was for Steffen's kids. She followed the headless doll incident by reporting to police that someone had tried to kidnap her young daughter. According to Steffen, someone grabbed her daughter's arm and attempted to drag the girl into a wooded area. Steffen also claimed that her black laptop cover was left near the location of the alleged incident, which had a notepad with Steffen's personal information inside it. She tried to match the kidnapper's description to that of her former business partner, but the partner had a strong alibi. The police spoke to Steffen's daughter, who asked officers what would happen to her if she told them the truth. Soon after, authorities learned Steffen bought the same kind of notepad and laptop cover several days before the incident at her local Walmart. They also found a witness who heard Steffen and a friend discussing their plan to leave the headless doll on the porch. When Steffen wasn't conducting elaborate schemes, she was creating social media accounts and sending endless intimidating messages. She made at least 369 Instagram accounts filled with graphic threats. In July 2018, shortly after the alleged kidnapping incident, law enforcement arrested and charged her for filing a false police report, tampering with or fabricating physical evidence, and not taking care of her kid. When she was in custody, she called her daughter from a recorded jail phone line to convince her to tell the police that she was the one that made up the kidnapping plot. She told her daughter that she wouldn't get in trouble if she admitted to lying, but if the police thought Steffen was the one that made up the incident, she would be. Deputies added witness tampering charges in response to the phone call. Steffen's outrageous behavior stemmed from her belief that her ex-business partner swayed the votes at a fitness competition she lost. She called one fitness business owner so many times that the company couldn't answer customer calls. When the business stopped answering Steffen's calls, she hacked the company's voicemail and changed the voicemail message to sounds that were particularly explicit. Although the police confirmed the allegations were untrue, Steffen did everything she could to tarnish her former partner's reputation and harass other competitors. After Steffen's original arrest for filing a false police report, authorities dug into her campaigns of intimidation and harassment. A few months after her original stint in jail, federal agents arrested her on stalking charges. She pled guilty to cyber stalking and sending online threats and was sentenced to almost 5 years in prison. Number 3, strange motivation. OnlyFans star Luisa Espinoza was arrested after an investigation into her account uncovered criminal activity. The Ecuadorian social media influencer, whose stage name is La Vampira, meaning vampire woman, was very popular on the social media platform. She had been a dancer since she was young and had a successful 5-year career, as well as appearing in several reality TV shows. Although she had been successful, her most lucrative endeavor was working on OF. Espinoza charged $30 per month to access her photos and videos. Subscribers were shocked when the content of her videos developed a sinister tone. She shared content involving minors, and an additional video with a younger family member got into the hands of the media. She also posted content to Twitter, but admins quickly removed them. Espinoza likely worked with 2 other people who filmed her videos and helped her edit the material. Ecuadorian police raided their properties and arrested the trio. Officers uncovered filming equipment, electronic devices, and 10,000 videos with explicit and illegal footage. Espinoza faced up to 26 years behind bars. Number 2. The Money Saving Committee. Micro-influencer and entrepreneur Sidra Humaid conned several women out of millions of dollars in a Ponzi scheme. Humaid, who social media users and news outlets have referred to as the committee swindler, was active in many social media groups where she raised funds, sold artisanal items, and presented herself as a devout Muslim. She ran over 100 financial saving companies, a popular and traditional form of informal savings in Pakistan. The country has a population of 220 million, but only 2 out of 10 women have bank accounts. Committees are a path to financial freedom for many Pakistani women, and Humaid's committees seemed like a great place to begin that journey. Business owner Mariam joined one of Humaid's committees so that she could save for unexpected medical expenses. She put in $1,000, but her money abruptly vanished. Mariam presumed it was money mismanagement, but learned she was one of many others who had experienced the same thing. Humaid took to Facebook to apologize for the situation, acknowledging she had made a big mistake. Apparently, she'd got caught in a Ponzi scheme where she lost more money than she could count. She also stated clearly that she wasn't a scammer or someone that would steal from others. The apology may have seemed more sincere if Humaid hadn't been bragging on social media days before. Committees were created in South Asia to offer women an opportunity to have their own savings in a world where the banking system is often inaccessible to women. A savings committee is often composed of dozens of people with one leader. The leader holds monthly cash installments from each member and helps them work towards a shared goal. For example, if a group of 10 women want to save $1,500, they'll each contribute $75 a month. After 2 months, there will be a lucky draw ballot, and one member will get a payout of $1,500. There's no interest in the payouts, and financial experts generally consider committees a bad way to save money as they don't account for recessions or other economic downturns. However, for most women in Pakistan, committees are a lifeline. Banks aren't usually welcoming to women in the country, and opening an account is very difficult as the financial institutions want proof of income. Bankers typically don't want to work with women or see them as high risk, which makes them much less likely to give them access to financial guidance and services. When women enter committees, they don't need to hide cash at home, which their husbands or other family members could get their hands on. Committees are formed amongst groups of people that know and trust one another. There's rarely a paper trail for a committee since it's an informal and flexible system which can be beneficial to members who suddenly need money before it's their turn. Committees can help open businesses, fund education, and provide emergency cash when they're correctly run. However, in Humaid's case, her committees were a big setback for women looking to establish themselves financially. Many social media users spoke out against the women that trusted Humaid, claiming they should never have given money to someone through their social media account. They also said they hoped Humaid's victims learned not to trust an influencer with their money. Women often have to trust influencers with their money as they have nowhere else to turn. They can't trust the justice system, and many feel the only option is to turn to committees. Humaid tried to mitigate the harmful exposure by attempting to silence her victims with a string of threats. Since committees are founded on members trusting one another, scamming members of her committees would have completely destroyed her reputation. The victims didn't want to take legal action as they feared they wouldn't be taken seriously and felt the only option was an out-of-court settlement. Recovering financially from the losses was far more complicated than just getting back their original investments. Victims often have to deal with owing money to other committee members and the fallout from people that loaned them money for their initial commitments. Humaid contacted her investors to let them know she was taking steps to pay everyone back. It sounds like these women really need the help, so we hope she comes through. Number 1. The typical profile. Social media influencer Vera Zinger seemed to live an exciting and glamorous life until her arrest for possessing and supplying illegal substances. Police pulled over Zinger while she was on a road trip and found 2 grams of illegal substances and $2,150 in cash. It would be hard to tell by Zinger's social media posts that she was having legal troubles and shared images of herself promoting a swimwear brand 3 days after the arrest. The glamorous Instagram model earned a living by promoting products like skimpy swimwear to her followers. She built her career by flashing her luxurious lifestyle and recently, before the arrest, shared pictures of her travels throughout Europe. She posted pictures of herself in skimpy bikinis and stunning backdrops of places like Barcelona, Ibiza, Mykonos, and Santorini in the background. Zinger's arrest was part of a much bigger operation where police took 84 people into custody over 6 days over contraband supply and distribution. Law enforcement claimed 46 of those arrested were dealers. However, Zinger was not included in that list. Some of the other people arrested included a taxi driver and a pregnant woman who had large amounts of powdery substances in their vehicle. The pregnant woman attempted to hide the contraband inside an empty energy drink can. Over the course of the sting, officers uncovered 350 grams of contraband and $69,500. They didn't target a specific location, but observed people's behavior and targeted anyone that seemed suspicious. Zinger didn't let her involvement in the sting slow down her career while she awaited her court hearing. Although, if she was that hard up for cash, a sugar daddy might have been better than turning to illegal activities. Here are a few people who completely exposed themselves. Number 10, David Guerra. Someone should have told David that you shouldn't post evidence of your crimes on social media. This genius from San Antonio's South Side posed for the camera holding cash, guns, and let's call it illegal substances because, thanks YouTube censors. Clearly, David was looking for attention, and he got it. Shortly after he posted the images came to the attention of the Bexar County Sheriff's Department. They sent 3 different divisions after Guerra, and it didn't take long for them to find his car and pull him over. In the car, they found illegal substances, a loaded gun, and cash. The sheriffs also found another man in the car with him, Urza Guerra. They arrested them both. We don't think they let you post on Instagram from jail, so we may not hear from them for a while. Number 9, Paula Asher. It was bad enough that a Kentucky woman made the awful choice to drive drunk. But when Paula Asher slammed into a car filled with 4 teenagers, she made things even worse by driving away. Police inevitably caught up with her and charged her with 4 crimes: driving under the influence, leaving the scene of an accident, driving under the influence of alcohol, and possession of a controlled substance. Asher didn't keep quiet afterwards, though her lawyer probably wishes she did. In her infinite wisdom, she decided to post on Facebook about how she got drunk and hit another car. She made sure to end the post with the signature LOL. It's one thing to make terrible choices. It's something entirely worse to laugh out loud about them on social media. Outraged families saw and shared the post with the judge in the case. The judge was, shall we say, unhappy. When Judge Mary Jane Phelps saw Asher in court for the first time, she told her to delete that Facebook account. But Asher did not delete her Facebook account. Another in a series of unwise decisions. When the judge found out, Asher was found in contempt of court and sentenced to spend 2 days in the county jail. In another DUI or LOL moment, Oregon teen Jacob Cox Brown had a serious wake-up call driving drunk. He too joked about his crime on Facebook when he wrote, "Driving drunk, classic, but I am sorry to whoever's vehicle I hit." He ended the post with a sticking your tongue out emoji. 2 of his Facebook friends shared the post with police, who promptly arrested Jacob. When you post something like that, you've got to assume it won't stay private for long. Number 8, Nicholas Grove. He did not want to go to jail, so when cops brought him in for booking, he decided to run away. He was originally arrested for stealing computers, checks, and credit cards from an Oregon Education District building. Nicholas couldn't bear the thought of prison, so as they were booking him, he hopped over a counter and ran away. Freedom didn't last long. They scooped him back up later that summer and booked him, successfully this time, to await trial. Still, Grove was determined. Grove seized another opportunity in the rec yard by climbing over the fence, a fence topped with razor wire, and went on the run again. This time, he made it to Mexico. Maybe Nicholas thought that he was Andy Dufresne, the character from The Shawshank Redemption who broke out of prison to live out his days in Mexico. He wasn't. If you watch the movie carefully, you'll notice that Andy Dufresne never posted anything on Facebook. But while Nicholas lived a life of freedom in Mexico, he just kept posting. He posted selfies of himself in and around Cancun, which made it pretty easy for police to find him once they got the info from Facebook. A year and a half later, U.S. Marshals swooped in to Tulum, Mexico, and picked up the fugitive. They hauled him back to Oregon to face trial for his original crimes and a new one, felony escape. He got 5 years. Number 7. Dakari McAniff. A Los Angeles man named Dakari McAniff thought he cracked the code to get famous on social media. For some reason, he felt the secret to Twitter fame involved showing the world your gun and aiming it at people. Then he said if he got 100 retweets, he'd use it on someone. It didn't take long for cops to figure out who posted the image and caption on Twitter. It also didn't take long for them to arrest McAniff and bring him to jail. We don't know how long it'll take for this Los Angeles sniper to learn his lesson, but we doubt he'll post about it when he does. Number 6. Orlando Henderson. He just loved to flaunt his luxury lifestyle on social media. He took pictures of himself next to his brand new Mercedes and posted them, claiming to be building his brand. He also posted pictures of himself holding huge stacks of cash. While he posted like a famous rapper, Orlando was a lowly bank teller in North Carolina. We're not sure how many likes he got, but we do know the FBI were not his biggest fans. However, Henderson was pretty brave in his plot to rob his own bank. He just walked into the vault, grabbed people's cash, and deposited it into his account at an ATM around the corner. In all, he made off with $88,000. He put $20,000 down to buy the new Mercedes that he proudly posed with for social media. Once the FBI got involved, Orlando's life of luxury came crumbling down. Orlando was charged with a few counts of fraud and 19 separate counts of theft and embezzlement. With decades in prison and millions of dollars in fines heading his way, Orlando probably wishes he stayed off social media. Find out more about Orlando by clicking here. Number 5. Lee Van Bryan. After a long flight from London, Lee Van Bryan landed in Los Angeles with his friend Emily Bunting. Lee and Emily made it through passport control. However, less than friendly Homeland Security agents prevented them from taking another step. In this case, it wasn't that Lee and Emily had done something. It wasn't even that they were planning to do something. Instead, border agents detained and grilled them over some cheeky tweets Lee posted before traveling to LA. Before leaving, he posted about how he would destroy America and dig up Marilyn Monroe's grave. Not exactly wise, but still just a tweet. What the border agents didn't understand, according to Lee, is that destroy is slang for party. So when he tweeted that he was going to destroy America, he was talking about partying. Oh, and he didn't mean it when he tweeted 3 weeks prior that they were going to Hollywood Boulevard to upset people and dig up Marilyn Monroe's grave. In fairness, maybe it was all a big misunderstanding. It seems likely that Lee and Emily were traveling to LA to have fun and party. And as they pointed out to the border agents, digging up Marilyn Monroe's grave is a joke he lifted from the show Family Guy. The Department of Homeland Security was having none of it, though. So instead of a hearty welcome to America, they got a trip in a police van and an overnight stay in a holding cell. Lee met some nice men in his holding cell who were allegedly huge and covered with tattoos. They told him they'd been arrested for smuggling substances into the country. Then they took his dinner. The next day, it was back to the airport for Lee and his friend, where they were sent home on a jet. Number 4. Dominic Alfonseca. Dominic will have you know he's the victim in this story. All he did was walk into a bank and ask for some money. He smiled at the teller and handed her a note. He said please and thank you. What we know at this point is that Dominic was a very polite bank robber. His note, though, was a little more urgent. It said he needed the money right now because it only takes the police 3 or 4 minutes to arrive. Then it said to ring the alarm a minute after he's gone and make sure the money doesn't blow up on his way out. He even put a little smiley face at the end. He walked out with a bag full of cash and was arrested 22 minutes later. Alfonseca didn't waste those 22 minutes. That was all the time he needed to make a couple of Instagram posts sharing videos of the robbery and a photo of the note he'd given the teller. The reason why Alfonseca believed he was the victim is pretty simple. He never threatened the teller or anyone else. He just politely asked for the money. It's not his fault she was generous. Nothing to do with the fact that he was an aspiring rapper who posted the photo and videos for exposure. Not one to miss an opportunity, Alfonseca took some time in a jailhouse interview to give shoutouts to Michelle Obama, Justin Bieber, and Lady Gaga. Number 3. Augustine Nadru. On a sunny January afternoon on Staten Island, Augustine made a little clip for his Instagram followers. He filmed himself strolling down the sidewalk and chatting with a postal service worker. Then he filmed himself walking into a bank and telling a cashier how lovely she was. He was careful to say he was a one-woman man, but if he weren't, he would marry her. Finally, Augustine turned to the room and shouted at the top of his lungs, "This is a robbery!" Then he left. Augustine didn't stick around to get any money. If he had, things would have gotten a lot worse for him. Even so, the police were happy to charge him with several crimes. In a hilarious twist, this was the second bank he, quote, robbed that day. He also had an open case from 2018 in which he walked into another bank and pulled the same stunt. In the end, he was charged with reckless endangerment. Police also found a little bit of weed on him, which was still illegal at the time. Number 2, Harim Shah. Some people never learn. Take this Pakistani TikTok star, for instance. In 2019, Shah filmed herself in the conference room of Pakistan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, something that's strictly forbidden. If she just kept quiet, she'd probably get away with it. But that's not what TikTok celebrities do. Instead, Shah did the opposite. She posted it on TikTok for her 1 million plus followers, prompting outrage and criticism on social media. The government launched a small investigation, but she never suffered any consequences. She got away with it this time. After a brush with the law, you'd think that Shah would be cautious about what she posted online. But in January of 2022, she did it again. Shah posted pics of herself after arriving in London carrying loads of cash. In the video, she claimed she brought it illegally from her native Pakistan. This time, though, she took things even further. She told her followers that even though they should be careful if they did something like that, it was easy for her and they could not stop her. She even said that in Pakistan, the laws are only for the poor. We can't say for sure if Shah learned from this. Still, nobody likes a gloater. This time, the outrage was loud enough that Pakistan's feds launched a money laundering investigation into Shah's activity. That's when things got uncomfortable. A prominent Pakistani politician stepped forward in Shah's defense in an unexpected twist. Daniel Malik, a former candidate for one of Pakistan's larger political parties and a businessman in London, told the press that the cash was his and he'd loaned it to Shah as a friend so she could make a fun little video for the internet. According to Danielle, the cash was all for legitimate business and Shah did nothing wrong. This must be true. When has a politician ever stretched the truth? Number 1, Andrew Hennels. Andrew went on Facebook and posted about his plan to rob his local Tesco supermarket. He must have made the post moments before walking into the store, because just 15 minutes later, police had him in custody. He managed to steal a getaway car in that short window and drove to a local pub. When police picked him up, they found the weapon he used to threaten the clerk and the 400 pounds he'd stolen from the store. The police seemed grateful for the Facebook post. To them, the pictures and posts confirmed what they already knew. In late January of 2019, New Jersey police found 2 debit cards, 39 stolen blank checks, and thousands of dollars in cash. The evidence led them to an unlikely ringleader, social media influencer Kayla Massa. Massa's Instagram account is now private, but before she was forced to hide her page, Kayla ran a thriving personal brand. Her page boasted over 300,000 followers and fed into her personal YouTube channel. Kayla posted a few videos with her sister where they made a typical vlogger content. They hosted Q&As, tried their hand at various internet challenges, and told stories about their personal lives. The channel only garnered 100,000 subscribers. However, YouTube wasn't Kayla's main focus. Her Instagram page was most important. She used her Instagram to post selfies of a wide variety. She even has a fan page dedicated to reposting them. Their profile features an array of faltering mirror selfies and pictures with Kayla's boyfriend. One features them wearing matching shirts. His reads Clyde, her reads Bonnie. In a couple of other photos, Kayla is seen showing off a new gold watch and a pair of sparkling rings on her index and ring fingers. Kayla loved looking posh, successful, and beautiful. She was good at it. There are several other fan accounts, as well as many fake accounts trying to capture Kayla's success by borrowing her likeness. Many influencers use this kind of fame to sell lines of products or merchandise, like Mr. Beast or Jeffree Star. However, Kayla didn't create a product for her followers so much as she created a product for herself. After gaining her 300,000 plus following, Kayla started posting photos of herself holding wads of cash. The captions asked her followers if they were interested in making easy money like this, and if they were, they should DM her. The majority of these posts were stories. Fortunately, some of Kayla's followers screenshotted the posts. As you can see, the stories send a clear message. Kayla was making money through some magical virtual wallet. She'd often pose an ATM receipt or USPS money order slip next to her stacks of cash. Most people reading phrases like, "If you have a bank account and want to make some extra bread," would avoid that girl's DMs like the plague. But they weren't Massa's followers. Many of Kayla's victims were longtime followers who watched her tell stories on YouTube and liked Kayla's intimate photos of her and her boyfriend. They knew Kayla's friends and family members whenever they made appearances on her vlog or Instagram. In other words, many victims felt like they knew Massa. And as previously mentioned, Kayla looked successful. She must be doing something right. Sure enough, Kayla's DMs were flooded with people interested in making some extra bread. Prior to posting the scammy stories, Kayla created a system for how to respond to interested investors. For example, if you DM'd Kayla about the money opportunity, she typically responded with a poorly written message saying, quote, "So basically, my business partner owns his own business. We deposit a check through ATM, claiming as if you worked. It takes 1 or 2 days to process. I would need your online banking and card and PIN. We would have to meet up. If you have any questions, you can ask me." Prosecutors used that very message as evidence against her. As the message indicates, Kayla claims that she's using her business partner's other business to cash in fake checks. These kinds of fake checks usually come from tax write-offs, but sometimes they just came straight from the company's payroll. Then she'd launder them through her followers' bank accounts. It's a scam within a scam. Kayla then set up meetings with interested followers. Since they had to hand over extremely personal information, Kayla usually recommended meeting somewhere discreet. Her favorite meetup locations were parking lots, which sounded sketchy to a lot of people. Kayla ensured the victim that their money would be safe and sound. To make sure of this, Kayla instructed the customer to empty their bank accounts. That way, even with their information, Kayla couldn't possibly steal their money. They believed her more often than not. Logically, it makes sense. However, they'd soon learn about other ways to steal funds from an empty bank account. The victim innocently handed Kayla their debit cards, bank information, passwords, PIN numbers, and account numbers. They even gave her their security questions and answers. Kayla thanked them and said they were about to make a lot of money. And by they, she meant her and the rest of her accomplices. It was all part of the system. The cast of characters included Kayla's boyfriend, Jordan Heron, who she dated for a year between March 2017 to October 2018. Lear Massa, Kayla's little sister, was also involved alongside her boyfriend, Erasmo Feliciano. Kayla was the ringleader. Her sister's boyfriend, Jordan, and Feliciano helped Kayla run the scam. Meanwhile, Lear operated a few accounts of her own. William Logan, a friend of Kayla's, operated his own social media accounts. Several, in fact, mainly on Instagram. His involvement helped Kayla's scheme grow to new heights. Logan knew other social media users and influencers who were interested in the scam. Logan recruited Alex Haynes, a local car dealership employee in New Jersey, who helped the crew out by setting up more accounts and stealing blank checks. Logan and Feliciano also brought in a mutual friend of theirs named Kevin McDaniels. Kevin set up several accounts on both Instagram and Facebook. Then, Logan approached his friend, Jabril Martin, about the scam. Martin joined the crew, but only operated one Instagram, an Instagram account called @1HUnit_mill. Andrew Johnson, a scammer recruited by Feliciano, had several Santa Claus-themed accounts. One account in particular was called @Savage_Santa. Last but not least is Dazon McCrae. It's unclear how McCrae joined the scam operation, yet very clear how he helped the cause. McCrae, also a New Jersey native, used an array of Facebook and Instagram accounts with usernames like YC Woody and Really C Woody. Most of these individuals weren't professional hackers or con men, but they had a clever system to follow, devised primarily by Kayla, who couldn't have stolen the 7-figure sum on her own. Between the 9 of them, Kayla's crew stole 1,238 checks. One of the biggest targets was a Nissan dealership in Turnersville. In February 2019, Turnersville reported several strange activities on their business accounts to local investigators. The dealership showed the investigators screenshots of check transactions they weren't aware of, and there were a lot of them. Turnersville counted around 697 checks cashed from their Bank of America account. Kayla and her accomplices cashed 3 checks for a total of $128,000. After getting access to the victim's bank account, the crew stole stacks of blank checks from the Nissan dealership. From there, they forged their victim's name onto the check, along with a smaller amount like $450. Then they deposit the check into the victim's account. Nissan Turnersville wasn't the only company the Massa 9 stole from. Alex stole checks from the dealership he worked at, Woodsboro Nissan. He happened to work in the payment processing department, giving direct and exclusive exclusive access to Woodsboro's blank checks. The crew also stole checks from a mechanic shop and a couple other dealerships in the New Jersey area. The United States Post Office issued a complaint against Kayla. The complaint is 67 pages long and tells in great detail how Kayla and her accomplices scammed over $1.5 million from 45 victims in the northeastern United States. The report somewhat resembles the alleged criminal escapades of Frank Abagnale. You may have heard of the Steven Spielberg film Catch Me If You Can, starring Leonardo DiCaprio as Abagnale. In the film, Abagnale scams banks and airlines by cashing bad checks while dressed up as an airline pilot during the 1960s and 70s. The only difference between Kayla and Abagnale is Kayla didn't have to disguise herself. The report focuses on how she actually stole her victims' money and wreaked havoc on their bank account, which wouldn't have been possible without Kayla's social status. The post office explained the clever methods Kayla used to scam her victims, like money orders and fake checks. Unlike Abagnale in Catch Me If You Can, Kayla simply stole blank checks and forged the necessary information onto the check. She, of course, couldn't do this all alone. Abagnale and many other con men of his day chose the lone wolf lifestyle. By contrast, Kayla recruited 9 other people into her scam. As for the mail money orders, those were much simpler. You need a debit card to order money through the post office, and Kayla had a lot of debit cards. Though there was one setback. The post office only allows orders under $1,000. So for Kayla to make the mail orders worth her while, she had to order a lot of them. Once she got the money order in the mail, Kayla, or an accomplice, took the money to a check cashing place and deposited the cash. The process, according to court documents, took about 2 to 4 days. According to data collected by the USPS, Kayla's order sizes typically range from $850 to $950. She typically used Western Union, one of the largest financial institutions in the world. They reported to authorities that Kayla and her team cost them $596,000 in fraudulent money orders. Many of their victims suffered losses as well. Kayla, after obtaining access to the victim's bank account and debit card, used the card to buy multiple money orders. One victim, who chose to go by MD on police reports, gave Kayla their bank account info and debit card. Kayla then used the information and card to draft 5 money orders from the victim's TD bank account. When she gave the mail orders over to her boyfriend Jordan, who deposited the cash back into MD's account, Kayla and company then used the debit card to spend the cash and overdraw the account until TD Bank halted MD's account after accruing $3,738 in debt. It doesn't matter if you drain your bank account, you can still spend money that doesn't exist. They'll just come looking for it later. Many of Kayla's victims, like MD, tried contacting her after seeing their accounts were severely overdrawn. But before they could ask questions or make any demands, Kayla blocked their Instagram account or phone number. The victims contacted Kayla through social media and phone number correspondence. They didn't know their address or any information about her or her accomplices. So once Kayla pressed the block button on the other user's profile, that was it. Game over. In case you are unfamiliar with blocking on social media, the digital action lives up to its name. If someone blocks you on an app like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, WhatsApp, you cannot contact that person using your current account. You also can't see their profile or their posts. It's as if they no longer exist. One victim in particular, referred to as CF on police reports, tried contacting Kayla after seeing their account was overdrawn by nearly $4,000. They tried texting and calling the number Kayla gave them, but found that their beloved influencer had blocked them. With no way to contact Kayla or any of their accomplices, CF was left with a $3,900 debt to pay off. Another victim had a similar experience. However, they managed to use a different account and messaged Kayla saying they would call the cops if she didn't return their money. Kayla texted back, "Do what you gotta do." After Kayla was arrested, she made her famous Instagram account private so no one could see her stories and posts about the money scam. But most importantly, no one could see how she bragged about all the expensive items she bought with her stolen money. Kayla and her accomplices spent thousands of dollars on jewelry, clothes, drugs, and anything else to make themselves look richer than they were. Apparently, fake it till you make it isn't always true. The prosecutors charged Kayla and company with conspiracy to commit fraud and wire fraud. Those crimes carry a maximum sentence of 20 years. She probably didn't think it all the way through when she decided to go for a quick cash grab with her ticket scam. But a scam involving having to ice a foot may just take the cake for the dumbest crime on this list. Number 5. Pretty Little Liar. Hannah Valentine started her adult life off on the wrong foot. Looking for a way to make some easy money, she created numerous fake Facebook accounts, which she used to scam people into buying counterfeit tickets for Post Malone concerts and other events. To protect her identity, Hannah went by several aliases, including Natalia Sparrow, Daniela Walsh, Hannah Jane Matthews, and Jessica Lewis. Hannah created fake accounts based on these aliases and posted that she was selling concert tickets. People clicked the link, deposited money into her bank account, and then ended up empty-handed while a mystery girl ran off with their money. Hannah should have thought things through a little more carefully. For one thing, how would the people not find out the tickets were fake? As soon as they got to their concerts, they would know they'd been duped in an instant. Hannah also used her own bank account to receive the money, a mistake no intelligent scammer would ever make. But this wasn't her first scam. About a year earlier, when working at a nail salon, Hannah used a client's credit card info to buy $5,000 worth of beauty products, clothes, fast food, Ubers, and authentic festival tickets for her amusement. Hannah's parents paid back most of the victims. That, coupled with her age, basically got her off the hook. Hannah was given 12 months of intensive supervision and had to complete 240 hours of community service. Things aren't as easy as they seem for her, however. Hannah applied for a spent conviction to wipe the scam off her record, but her request was denied. She also claims to be a laughingstock. According to Hannah, people point and laugh at her when they see her on the street. On top of that, she lost most of her friends. Even her boyfriend dumped her due to the bad press she received after her case. She said she wants to study to be a nurse, but that goal seems out of reach after all that's happened. We can only hope she's learned from her lesson and leaves her dishonest ways behind her. Make sure you're only buying concert tickets from reputable sources. There's not much wiggle room when you buy them through a third party, especially if that party is a scam. Hannah was plain stupid, which is the only reason her victims got any money back. With a little more planning, she might have got away with it. Number 4. The Scamming Mom. Jade Cheesley is a mom from Melbourne, Australia, and she scammed the Aussie government out of $102,000 by submitting several false claims to Centrelink. In case you didn't know it, Centrelink is basically their government-sponsored financial assistance program. Jade claimed she was separated, living out of her car with her kids, struggling to get food, and needed government assistance to get by. She received government support for years, and all the while she was living large in a $565,000 home. She was still married to her husband, and the couple was far from financially needy. They owned 2 investment properties and had $780,000 worth of cars, savings, and even a boat. Mr. Cheesley owned a roofing company and made $226,000 a year, which was how the couple could afford such lavish things. Jade used the extra money from her scam on many things. One was family vacations. In 2015, she took her family to the Golden Coast, Honolulu, and Movie World, followed by a 12-day trip overseas later in the year. For her husband's 40th birthday, she threw a surprise party at the Craigieburn Sporting Club after celebrating their anniversary at a luxury hotel the year before. Unfortunately for Jade, her extravagance ultimately led to her downfall. In 2017, the Australian government received tips from the public that Jade was better off than she claimed to be. Once there were too many tips to ignore, investigators raided the Cheesleys' home to uncover the truth. Inside the house, they found Jade's cell phone full of incriminating text conversations. These conversations included Jade telling her husband to lie to Centrelink and say they were separated, and asking him what he would do if he had to support her lavish lifestyle all on his own. These texts showed authorities that although Jade was the mastermind behind the scam, her husband was in on it too. All this led to a trial in which Jade pled guilty to dishonestly causing a loss for the Commonwealth and giving false and misleading evidence to a Commonwealth entity. She will now be serving an 18-month prison sentence where she will get a taste of what living a hard life is really like. No more 12-day trips, no more boat rides, and no more extravagant parties. Just her and the rectangular cage she put herself in. Number 3. Self-inflicted. Malcolm Harrison needed insurance money, and he may have gotten away with his scam. Except he was caught on camera faking an insurance claim. The video depicts him returning from a jog when he almost trips and notices a half-broken pavement stone right in front of his house. The footage shows him talking to and laughing with a neighbor before smashing his knee into the stone 5 times. Malcolm then limps his way back inside, determined to make a case out of his so-called accident. Malcolm thought the CCTV cameras in the housing complex weren't on for some reason, so he injured himself in plain view of the cameras that were still running. He actually thought they were fake and just there to scare off any would-be intruders. Once he submitted the claim, it didn't take long for the insurance company to find the video. When housing agents showed him the footage, Malcolm tried to play dumb and insist that the injury was real. He even tried to block the screen so his mother wouldn't see what he did. He even tried to tell police that they were misinterpreting the footage, but the footage was clear as day. He walked up, drove his knee into the pavement on purpose, and then laughed about it with a neighbor. Nobody has ever been caught more red-handed than Malcolm. He also lied to his mom about the whole thing. You see, Malcolm has dyslexia and lives with his elderly mom. She filled out the paperwork for him to file the £6,000 claim against their landlord. He maintained his plea of not guilty until he stepped into the courtroom when he finally came to his senses and pleaded guilty to all charges. Malcolm will have to do 200 hours of community service to pay for his fraud. Number 2. Holiday in Zimbabwe. Thulile Bebe, a UK resident, tried to fake her husband's death to cash in on his £400,000 life insurance check early. In September 2016, Thulile sent Aviva a medical consent form and a certificate from a hospital in Zimbabwe claiming that her husband had died of pulmonary embolism on August 9th of that year. He was actually working a long shift at Charing Cross Hospital in London that day, nowhere near Zimbabwe. When Aviva agents uncovered this information, they sued Thulile, and she was charged with a single count of fraud. The judge handed Thulile a 2-year sentence, but it was ultimately suspended. She was a mother and a first-time offender, so the judge decided she could rehabilitate and pay her dues in other ways, deeming a prison sentence unnecessary. However, her nursing license was suspended until further notice, but that didn't stop her from applying for another nursing job the day after her suspension hearing. She intentionally left any information regarding her conviction off her application and worked 35 shifts before internal checks within her workplace discovered the truth. This was the final straw. Another hearing was held, and the board decided there was no other option but to strike her off the medical register. They ruled her conduct was fundamentally at odds with the association's standards and that allowing her to continue her practice would reflect badly on the agency. Thulile and her husband were in deep financial straits, owing around £30,000 before the scam. Some speculate if Mr. Bebe was in on the scam and that he let his wife fake his death to escape his debt. However, the court found no evidence of this, and Mr. Bebe was let off without any charges. Number 1. Cold feet. Brian Muyepa is a former Royal Artillery gunner, and he sued the British Ministry of Defence for £3.7 million. While he was in the military, he allegedly was in a cold tunnel with wet boots for 5 hours, and that was what caused him to develop trench foot. Trench foot has been around for centuries. It claimed the lives of 75,000 British soldiers and over 2,000 American soldiers in World War I due to the high amount of trench warfare taking place. Trench foot causes pain in the extremities and heightened sensitivity to cold weather. It was common in the trenches of World War I, hence its name. The condition was widespread due to cold weather mixing with the water inside the trenches. Symptoms of trench foot include blisters, blotchy skin, swelling, a feeling of numbness, pain when exposed to extreme heat or cold, and loss of mobility. In many instances, soldiers had to get their feet amputated because of their condition. Unfortunately, the ones who couldn't get an amputation never made it home. Muyepa claims the Ministry of Defense breached their duty of care towards him and is seeking £3.7 million in reparations, including $800,000 for the loss of his army career and $1.7 million to pay for caretaking. Muyepa claims he can't walk more than 100 meters, even with his walking stick. He claims he can't stand for longer than 10 minutes, and his wife takes care of all of the household chores. We're not sure why that last bit is worth suing over, but to each his own. However, a video of him dancing at a barbecue says otherwise. The video, posted on Brian's wife's Facebook page, outraged the Ministry of Defense. It blew his whole case out of the water, as he's much more mobile than he claims to be. On top of this, one of Brian's army comrades told the Ministry of Defense that Brian talked about packing ice blocks around his feet to fool the tests into showing that he had trench foot when he really didn't. Now the Ministry of Defense is convinced the whole case is a fake. They don't plan on giving Muyepa 1 penny of his £3.7 million claim. Who are some of the most heartless criminals who don't care about any of their crimes? Let's get into it, starting with number 6, Big Rig Ponzi. Rapper Big Rig Baby and his business partner allegedly ran a Ponzi scheme to raise millions of dollars from investors in a fake company. Big Rig Baby, whose real name is Patrick Earl Williams, a name he should stick with, since his stage name sounds like he's a giant baby semi-truck, and his partner, Rolf Max Hirschman, promised high returns on investments for people that invested in their company, Weedgenics. Thinking their money would go toward funding growing facilities in California and Nevada, investors contributed millions of dollars, expecting returns as high as 36%. In true Ponzi style, Williams and Hirschman used new investor cash to pay other investors, creating the illusion that the business venture was generating revenue. Williams kept $8 million in investors' funds, from which he spent $625,000 on dining, adult entertainment, jewelry, and other luxury items. He also used the funds to promote his music career, putting it towards paying producers, iHeartMedia, and DJs. He transferred roughly $1.9 million of investor money into his personal bank accounts. Hirschman used the name Max Bergman when communicating with investors. He received approximately $15.6 million in investor funds and, like Williams, made many extravagant purchases. Hirschman spent almost $5 million on real estate and $2.4 million on luxury cars. He additionally put $3.2 million toward credit card payments and withdrew $913,000 in cash. It was easy for investors to believe that everything was legitimate. The website claimed to have a 52,000 square foot campus in Las Vegas and was building a new growing facility in California. However, a complaint from the SEC revealed that the company was a sham. The filing accused Williams and Hirschman of lying about the existence of an actual company, falsifying its venue, and using investor funds for their own gain rather than for their purported business. The pair also allegedly lied about having the necessary licenses and permits to open the cultivation facility in California. They showed investors fake financials, locations, and photographs of their facilities. According to the complaint, Williams and Hirschman hid their money in multiple companies in order to not raise any suspicions. They created 16 organizations, most of which were LLCs, to move and transfer funds. In total, Big Rig Baby and his partner scammed investors out of $62 million. Number 5. Kidnapped claims. Charlene Carrasco told her ex-boyfriend that a felon kidnapped her so that he would send her money. Carrasco, who lived in Nottingham, England, repeatedly called her ex-boyfriend, begging him to send cash as her kidnapper would only release her once he had the ransom. The pair met online in 2011 and soon developed an in-person relationship where they would meet weekly. Although they split in August 2013, they stayed friends. In 2014, Carrasco started asking her ex-boyfriend for money, requesting small sums of $10 to $20 to help her pay bills and buy groceries. But in January of 2015, Carrasco contacted him again, saying she owed a lot of money to a gangster who was holding her against her will. Carrasco claimed the kidnapper locked her in a car and was taking her to an ATM to see if the money was in her account. Carrasco's ex-boyfriend, trying to be a good guy, transferred $880 into her account and then an extra $378. The kidnapper apparently had an oddly specific amount in mind. Anyway, Carrasco called him the next day to say the alleged gangster had injured her. Carrasco claimed the only way to get him to stop was if her ex-boyfriend transferred more money. So he sent an additional $378. Seriously, why that amount? And contacted the police. When law enforcement arrived at her home, Carrasco acted confused and claimed she had no idea why her ex would have reported a kidnapping. Although she made it seem like her ex was lying when he spoke to the police, 10 days later, Carrasco contacted him again. This time, she said that her wallet and bank card were stolen by a man named Sean, who demanded $1,890, sticking with his weirdly specific amounts, before he would give her her things back. The best ex on the planet then received WhatsApp messages from Sean, who threatened to physically hurt Carrasco if he didn't get the money. Further, Sean said that he would sell Carrasco to a man who would do unspeakable things to her, like making her listen to Big Rig Baby's music. Sean then told the ex to send the money, and if he went to the police, it would make things much worse for Carrasco. The ex-boyfriend called Carrasco, who cried but insisted she would be okay if he sent the money. He sent over another $389 and afterwards called the police again. Authorities deployed multiple officers to find the alleged hostage, eventually locating her at her family home. They arrested Carrasco after discovering that she lied about the kidnappings. She pleaded guilty to blackmail and fraud and was sentenced to 12 months in jail. You would think alarm bells would be going off when someone's demanding a ransom of only $378. Like, normally the ransom is much higher, but he was having a blowout sale on prisoners. It's the end of the quarter, and hey, he's got a boss too, you know? Gotta hit those numbers. And wouldn't you be mildly offended on some level that he really didn't think he could get much more for you than $1,000? Like, he's looking at you and thinking, well, if I go too high, this guy isn't gonna pay it. We'll start really low and go from there. Yes, we know it's fake, but still. Number 4, scamming immigrants. Norma Ferrer scammed money out of undocumented immigrants with pending cases. Immigration attorney Martin Lester of Lester Law Firm received a phone call from a woman who claimed to be a client and wanted to know what was happening with her case. Her name was unfamiliar to Lester, who searched through his computer to find a record of the caller's case. After discussing the situation with other attorneys, he learned that a scammer had targeted a group of people Lester was trying to help. A woman named Norma Ferrer had been telling undocumented immigrants that she was working with various attorneys in the area. She said that if they paid her, she would coordinate everything that needed to happen for them to win their cases. Norma called her company Ferrer's Multi-Services and posted ads on Facebook written in Spanish offering various services like immigration help and tax filings. The ad also included translation services for appointments with lawyers, hospital visits, and court cases. Ferrer also forged documents, including a contract with Lester Law Firm's logo. The phone call to Lester resulted in her indictment. Ferrer's lawyer required concrete evidence saying the defense started their own investigation into the case and found discrepancies. However, the prosecution highlighted that if found guilty, Ferrer would have denied undocumented immigrants the opportunity to live legally in the United States. Number 3, paying for employment. Leah Wilson, a single Australian mother of 3, lost thousands of dollars in an employment scam. Wilson was a victim of the September 2022 Optus data breach, where hackers stole her personal information. Less than a year later, it happened again. Wilson applied for jobs online using Tradewind Australia, a legitimate employment agency. Shortly after, Wilson received a text saying she had secured a part-time job. The scammers asked for her phone number and requested she follow a few links and fill out forms to complete the onboarding process. During the chat, she sent over personal information such as bank account details. Instead of starting her new job and making money, scammers stole $40,000 from her bank account. $34,000 of that money came from a GoFundMe she used to raise funds for her daughter's medical bills. Wilson's daughters suffered from mental health conditions and eating disorders, and she'd already remortgaged her home 3 times to cover their current medical bills. She also worked 3 jobs to make ends meet. In 2022, cyber criminals took her driver's license details to hack her government account and create fake tax returns in her name. Tradewind Australia confirmed 100 people reported similar scams from people impersonating the company. The website added a notice warning job applicants about the scheme. Number 2, going undercover. Scammers stole a 91-year-old widow's life savings by convincing her she was helping track down fraudsters. A fake police officer named Andrew William contacted the great-grandmother, Margaret, whose last name has been kept private, on behalf of the Australian Federal Police to inform her that someone was trying to steal her money. The scammer then convinced Margaret to transfer her savings to another bank so the AFP could track the hackers. The scammers told her she couldn't tell family or friends, which could compromise the police operation. According to William, people were losing large sums of money to hackers, and some banks handled it better than others. William reached out to the great-grandmother almost daily with instructions to transfer money into Australian and overseas accounts. Since Margaret didn't bank online, she had to go to the bank each time physically. As a longtime customer of the Bank of Queensland, staff grew concerned about the large withdrawals. One of the employees tried to indirectly ask if Margaret could have fallen victim to a scam, stating that she could be transferring cash to a fraudulent bank. Since William threatened that she could lose her money if she spoke to anyone about the operation, Margaret stayed quiet. William had told her that if anyone wanted to know why she was moving so much cash around, that she should give a benign excuse like buying a new car or doing home renovations. In total, Margaret transferred $399,270 under William's instruction. Margaret finally realized she was scammed when she tried to withdraw money from one of her new accounts, only to find that the money was gone. Unfortunately, Today, scams impersonating the AFP are common and on the rise. Representatives for the police highlighted that the AFP would never call and ask people to transfer money or send it to new bank accounts. Having lost her life savings, Margaret had to sell the home her son built for her and her late husband. Number 1. Jailed for life. Hakan Aysel pushed his pregnant wife off a cliff while taking a selfie so that he could collect her life insurance. Aysel's wife, Semra, was 7 months pregnant when he insisted they take a picture on the side of a cliff. Although she was frightened of heights, he lured her to the edge of the 1,000-foot drop and shoved her. Soon after her passing, he attempted to collect a $50,000 life insurance payout, alerting police to the suspicious circumstances surrounding Semra's passing. In court, Aysel attempted to deny his role in the incident, and after the jury found him guilty, he tried to appeal on the basis of insanity. He quickly dropped the appeal after medics dismissed the claims. In his version of events, he claimed that Semra put her phone in her bag after they took the photo. A few minutes later, she asked him to grab her phone. As he walked a few steps away, he heard a scream. When he turned around, she was gone. However, there were witnesses. Several other people were at the cliffside that day and took pictures and videos of the view. They noticed that Aysel was eerily calm after the future mother of his child fell. He waved down a driver and said that his wife had fallen. The driver got out of the car and helped him look for her, but they couldn't tell where she landed. While people tried to get closer to the edge to get a better look, Aysel didn't seem all that interested in helping. Aysel appeared carefree as they waited for rescue workers to arrive and showed no emotion when the rescue crew found his deceased wife. His nonchalance continued when he went with Semra's devastated family to collect the body. While the rest of the family was shocked and grieving, Aysel didn't even seem sad. Her family was confused when they learned Semra had taken out loans, as she was always against doing so, and realized that Aysel took them out on her behalf. They also didn't understand why she would have gone so close to the cliff's edge due to her fear of heights. When asked about his wife's insurance policy, Aysel claimed he didn't examine it closely and the banker arranged the paperwork. He stated that the banker arranged the paperwork, which he handed to his wife to sign, and was unaware of how much money was in the policy. A jury saw through Aysel's lies and found him guilty. He was sentenced to life in prison. Life was looking good for Charlotte Morgan. She had been offered a new job and had just finished talking to a coworker about her future plans when she went to her local gym for her evening workout on Wednesday, August 24th at Virgin Active Gym in Chiswick Park, London. It wasn't until 9:30 p.m. when she finished exercising and went to the locker room to get her things that her nightmare began. She discovered that the padlock she used on her locker was gone and her backpack had been stolen. Certain that nobody would have been able to figure out the code to unlock the padlock, she was convinced that somebody must have used wire cutters. However, how could a person get away with doing something like that in the open? Charlotte was about to find out that the security systems that the gym had in place were no match for a sophisticated thief. All of Charlotte's most valuable possessions were inside of her backpack. It was where she kept her cell phone, bank card, house keys, and bike lock keys, all of which were now in the thief's possession. Without her cell phone, she had no way of calling the police or reaching out to a friend or family member for help. She rushed to the front desk, where two other members stood looking concerned. They entered the gym at the same time she did, and she found out that one of them had their belongings stolen too. Another odd thing that happened when they went to check in earlier that night was that the electronic entry system was down, so they had to write their names on a piece of paper instead. With the gym not being as secure as it would typically be, her fear turned to her stolen bank card. She had to jump through many hoops to get her bank account frozen. The staff at Virgin Active refused to let her use their phone or computer, claiming it went against their security policy. Eventually, a colleague came to her aid and let her use their phone. Before she could find out if there were any unauthorized charges to her account, the call handler forced her to answer a series of security questions to confirm her identity. Once her identity was approved, she was given the long list of transactions charged to her card. Between her starting her workout and calling Statlander's hotline, thousands of pounds had been spent. Suddenly, she was helplessly watching her money be spent in real time. The first transaction was just after 8 p.m. at the Apple Store in Westfield Shopping Centre, located in West London, where they spent £3,000. At around 9 p.m., they moved on to a second Apple Store on Regent Street, spending around £1,000. The last transaction was at Selfridges, where an initial £750 was charged. By the time they were able to put the hold on the account, the stores had already closed for the night. If the gym let her access her information on their computer, then she would have been able to stop the thief sooner. Santander should have noticed that the purchases being made on her card weren't normal. In fact, they were completely different from her regular spending pattern. She had never shopped at an Apple store before, let alone been to 2 other stores on the same night. Also, she would rarely spend a lot of money at once. She knew that there were supposed to be protections in place to stop this from happening. Shocked, she asked why the bank didn't try to stop these transactions. It turned out that texts querying the purchases were sent to her stolen phone. If she had her phone, then she would have immediately been able to stop this from happening. Instead, because the fraudster had her phone, it was easy for him to approve every single transaction and continue their shopping spree. All the while, Charlotte was left frantically trying to figure out what to do. Hoping that she reached the bank in time to stop anything else from being charged to her account, she was horrified when the call handler informed her that there was an additional pending charge of £3,000 to her account. She was watching herself getting scammed in real time. The criminal spent more money on their shopping spree than Charlotte had in her entire account. Already upset that the text checking for fraudulent payments went to her stolen phone, she didn't understand why her account didn't overdraw. It should have never been possible for so much damage to be done to her account. The Santander call handler told her that money was transferred from her savings account in increments of £2,500. Her life savings were in that savings account and could have helped her stay afloat while she waited for the rest of the charges that night to be reimbursed. Not only did someone have her bank card, but they also managed to access her entire account at Santander. Left in shock, Charlotte found herself stranded at the gym that night. Keys to unlock her bike were gone, her house keys were stolen, and she couldn't call for an Uber or reach out to her landlord without her phone. It wasn't possible to get a hotel without any money, so Charlotte resorted to spending the night at her office where she was a TV producer. She sat at her desk all night as she researched what had happened to her and tried to figure out how she would get her money and possessions back. In the morning, she contacted her landlord and he gave her a new key to her house. Then began the excruciating wait for answers. Police told her when she filed her initial report that they would get back to her in a few weeks once they reviewed the security footage, and Santander said they would investigate the case too. Unfortunately, a few days after the initial incident happened, there was a long weekend that delayed the answers she desperately needed. The anticipation was so grueling that she could barely eat or sleep. Virgin Active UK refused to take responsibility for what happened, stating that they never take fault for theft. They claimed that the turnstiles were in the middle of a quick reboot when Charlotte checked in that night, which was the reason why a member of the staff was writing down people's names as they entered. Members of Virgin Active Gym in Chiswick Park were also never told about the theft, even though another woman had her things stolen that night too. But turning off the turnstiles and just writing names is still breaking protocol for security anyways. Santander took it a step further and even blamed Charlotte for the situation. She was accused of either writing the PIN number on her bank card or writing it out on a piece of paper that she kept in her bag. They went as far as saying that she must have shared the number with colleagues, friends, or a family member before they told her that she wouldn't be reimbursed for the transactions charged to her account. There was no proof that her negligence caused what happened, but the fact that her PIN was used meant that Santander refused to accept the blame. She took to Twitter to share her story. She detailed the entire ordeal in a series of tweets, from the card entry system not working that night to Virgin and Santander refusing to accept fault. Tens of thousands of people shared the tweets, and she received a flood of responses. Local firemen offered to free her still locked bike, and a nearby restaurant offered her a gift card for a free dinner. A member of Virgin Active in Chiswick Park wrote a reply where she questioned if it was safe for her to keep going there. People also sent her links to places where she could report Santander and Virgin Active UK for mishandling the entire situation. A bank security expert confirmed that the most likely thing that happened was that the thief took the SIM card out of her phone. Charlotte had so many unanswered questions. How did the thief know getting into the gym was going to be so easy? How could they have hacked her padlock? How were they then able to bypass her phone's facial recognition and passcode to gain access to her phone? How did they figure out her bank card's PIN code? How were they able to change her bank details so easily? Our question is, were they a member of the gym and just decided to do the crime since they could get in easily? Santander insisted that Charlotte was at fault and that her money was lost due to her own negligence, but a Twitter user helped Charlotte piece together one likely explanation. All the thief needed to change her bank security passwords and PIN was her bank card and the SIM card from her phone. Once they had that, they just needed to move the SIM card from Charlotte's phone into their own, where it would then bypass needing the thumbprint security or facial recognition that it would need on Charlotte's phone. However, Santander claimed that it would depend on how a user logged into the app on their phone and that they wouldn't be able to get into it without a passcode or using biometrics to obtain the PIN. They also clarified that the in-app PIN resets are common for UK banking apps and not a feature unique to Santander. A few days after Charlotte's tweets, Santander had a change of heart. The bank called her and agreed to reimburse her for the fraudulent charges. They gave Charlotte a long apology and admitted that they handled the situation poorly and were ultimately at fault. If her story didn't go viral, would Santander have given the money back? Or were they doing it just because they basically were guilt-tripped into it? Following Santander's lead, Virgin Active UK also acknowledged their role in the incident. They admitted to Twitter user @VivaJinsu that their security machine was broken when she entered and that the staff didn't even bother checking people's memberships before letting them through. Virgin Active UK also claimed that they would do whatever it takes to win back Charlotte's trust, but it might be too late. Charlotte confessed to losing all of her trust in banks and gyms. Now, she always locks her SIM card with a PIN number and separates her bank card from her phone. She was still paying off her phone when it was stolen and, as expected, she's still being held responsible for the rest of the payments, as she didn't have any phone insurance. Unfortunately for Charlotte, she still has 20 monthly payments left beginning in October of 2022. These types of simple gym thefts have apparently been becoming more common in locker rooms in London. Many people have already contacted Charlotte to say they had a similar experience after her story went viral. Charlotte's now actively advocating for change and wants to see police, gyms, and banks working together to stop anyone else from going through the same experience as her. Click to watch one of these next videos. Let us know in the comments section whether or not you think it's a red flag if the owner or founder of a company wears flashy jewelry or a flashy car.